Oh yeah, baby. Spreadsheet time. Crazy taxi. Guess who's been putting off doing these more, huh? It's me. You know, my original goal with these streams was I was gonna like plow through. I was like, okay, I'll just real quick get done with all the games I've ever streamed, and then I'll do it like every once in a while when they play a bunch of new games. I'll review them at like the end of the month or whatever. Yeah, about that. That didn't really work out so well, did it, huh? Oops. My B. Should we leave one of the bone men, maybe? Maybe two of them? Oh, that's the spreadsheet. We don't want to get rid of that. Hold on. Wow, I'm really bad at this, aren't I? They're not marked. They're all just called Raveyard. Raveyard. I love that term. Okay, let me get my chair here. I actually didn't prepare. Rattle me, bone, 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 bone. Board me, wheel. To anybody who has not joined us for past ones, I don't put music behind these. I'll be listening to my own music, actually. I know that's so dumb, and maybe people will see that as a stupid choice. This whole series is just botched in several ways. But I encourage you to put on your own music in the background if you want. You could always fall back on the Greyfruits Jams playlist, might I suggest. It's a lovely vintage. But I don't know. Something is weird to me about putting my own music here and just having it be like irremovable. It's like, what if people don't like the music? I don't know. Maybe that's a dumb reason. But I just go through and I have this list that's all the games I've streamed. And I'm just going to go through and give them rankings. It's not meant to be taken incredibly seriously. Like, I'm not saying that, for instance, Envirobear 2000 is objectively a 2 out of 10. Oh, shit, guys. Do you hear that? I think we have company. I might need to put on music in the background. Did you guys just hear a really loud voice? I thought someone was talking to me through my door. All right. Whatever, we'll reach that bridge when we get there. Which might be now. A bunch of people just came into my house, apropos of nothing, at 10 p.m. By the way, 10 p.m. I guess I'm streaming at 10 p.m., but this is probably going to go for, like, max 2 hours. We have a little rule in this house about not streaming into the wee hours of the night, because there are 2 streamers in this house. Lark is in Hawaii, so that is not him. Although I did have a dream last night about Lark coming back home, which I swear I'm not like just pining for him to come back. But that is true. I had a dream that I like left my room and he was right there and he was like, "Hey, I'm back." And I was like, "Well, you're right here. You're just standing outside my door." He's in Hawaii too, actually. Why the fuck is Dr. Mario a 10? I will get around to Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, but chat member, I'm glad you've asked. I've been thinking about that Dr. Mario 10 for a long time. Ever since I put it down, I've been like, is that true? And earlier today I was like, that's not true. It's literally a fucking 8. Like, it's good. It's incredibly solid for an NES game. It's probably the highest ranked NES game on this list, still at an 8. But 10? Why did I give it a 10? Why did I do that? I think my reasoning was like, there's nothing in it that doesn't... It was like perfect, it was like a perfect lean cut of meat. I don't know. It was like... I can't even put this into words. I can't even go into like the headspace of when I gave Dr. Mario a 10. But I was just like, I have no complaints with Dr. Mario. But that doesn't necessarily make it an 8 out of 10. I don't know. Like I said, these numbers are kind of weird because it's like a rank of like my personal enjoyment of it. But that being said, if Dr. Mario was a fucking 10 out of 10, I wouldn't have streamed it just once, you know? And while we're on this subject, I'd like to demote another 10, and maybe this will be seen as a D-colon move. But Rhythm Heaven Fever is, I'm going to put it down to a 9.5, because there are things that annoy me about the game very slightly. There are things that I think could be better about it. I don't think it's necessarily completely perfect. Yeah, no! Only 9.5! We can only aspire to perfection, folks, and you only reach it every once in a while. Portal! Punch out Wii! Is it sad that one of my only 10 out of 10s is the fucking, like, racist game? That everybody who hasn't played Punch-Out thinks is just racist as fuck? That's probably no good. Let me take a drink here. One thing that is difficult about these streams for me, part of the reason why I put them off, is because I can get kind of out of breath because I like to just talk and talk and talk and not have dead air, and I need to like pace myself and not just rattle off, because usually when there's a game, it's like, can you guys hear voices in the background? Be honest with me. Usually it's like there's a game going on, so if I'm not talking, at least you guys are getting entertained by the game. Here, it's like, I feel like I need to be filling that space constantly. That's why we've got our little friend here in the corner. Portal 10.5. You can't? Nah. No. Okay, good. Because we had, during, it wasn't Red Earth, I think it was Third Strike. I remember this because I was kind of fucking annoyed that the audio got polluted for Third Strike, but at least there's like background music to kind of cover it there. God damn it. They keep getting so loud. It's like 10 p.m. Who the fuck has company over at 10 p.m.? Who does that? I'm not a particularly social person, and the behaviors of people who live what I think are just normal social lives baffle me sometimes. I feel like an alien. Anyway, I was annoyed that we had like voices in the background of the Third Strike stream, but Third Strike had background music to like cover it up, and that was because we had the mics that were more that pick up more background noise, the clip mics. Some people don't appreciate that when you when you start a stream with one person or with two people, it's vastly different, like audio setup usually. Well, this really fucking sucks, cause I shit you not, guys. I know you guys want me to get on to just reviewing. Like the minute I started talking, I heard slam, bah, 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 bah. You know, and it was like, oh no, fuck me, it's 10 p.m. Whatever. I've just never seen that move before. I really hope they go downstairs. I really, really, really hope they go downstairs, because fuck me. They also don't have indoor voices at all. And I know I yell on stream sometimes, but guess what? When I have fucking friends over, I'm not going like, bah, 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 whatever. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Oh boy, 10 p.m. Well, that's the thing. You guys can put on some background music. That's not my prerogative, though. I don't know. I'll be listening to Dan's theme extended from Street Fighter V Champion Edition if you need me, but you guys can't hear it. Okay, Superstar Saga. Good-ass game. 8.5. Moving on. No, that's not actually it. But it is an 8.5. It bears the same Mario curse as every other main Mario game. It's not even a main Mario game, but this game is dope. It does not reach anything, like, it does not aspire to higher thought like many Mario games fail to do. I don't need a game to necessarily aspire to higher thought, but a lot of Mario games just sort of get by on like, it's fun, you know, it's like childlike joy, and that's cool and all. But I do like a little bit more from my games, just a little teensy bit. That being said, I was not left wanting for much with this game. Like, the combat is just enjoyable. The music is great. I always forget what exactly this composer did work on, but it's like they did work on like Mario RPG on the SNES and like Kingdom Hearts and shit, right? I'm blanking on their name completely right now. I'm so distracted because there's people and they're always like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go into secret mode right now. It's just you and me, chat. Okay, this is a real question. Who the fuck just stands in a dining room and just talks and talks. They do that every time they come over. I know I'm always complaining about other people in my house, but it's like, seriously, I've never lived in a house where people just have someone over and they just go to their room. And they just go to their room. They never hang out in their room. They're always like, yeah, let's hang out in the area where like it's like the connecting zone between everybody else's rooms. And like what the fucking fuck, man? This is nuts. Yoko Shimomura, thank you. That's totally what it is. The table is fucking fascinating. I'll tell you what it is. And no disrespect to the owner of this house, but he like remodeled the place, and now he's like too happy that we have a kitchen. And now he's like, come over and look at the kitchen, everybody. You know, and now they're hanging out in the dining room. Who does that? I have never hung out in somebody's dining room in my life. We have a living room that's further away from my fucking like door, where it won't be like whatever. Okay. Anyway, let's get back to the task at hand here. I'm just gonna have to fucking get over it. But why? But they know. In every house I've ever been in, they know that I do this. This is my job. So, do you think maybe a little bit of common sense could be applied in some of these situations where maybe you don't just stand? You have a lovely sofa, my friend. You have a spectacular fucking sofa that you should put to use. It's further away from me. Okay. Fuck you. Okay. Yes, I recommend Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Like, is this real? Is this fucking real, man? Like, go away, people. 10:02 p.m. 10:02 p.m. right now. In the year of our Lord, 10:02 p.m. Yeah, just chatting in the kitchen at 10 p.m. That's, yep, just, yeah. It's a great game. It's got a lot of personality. It deviates from what we would call the Mario formula. A lot of people complain about Mario being samey, you know, and these Mario and Luigi RPG, Mario RPG on the SNES, Paper Mario, they're all the chances for Mario to break away from the norm. And it works out really well every time. I don't even really have much to say, because a lot of what I've said could be applied to the Thousand Year Door too. It's like just carry all that over, basically. Even though they're by different teams. They're by different like groups of people. Particularly the combat in Superstar Saga is very satisfying, and I like that it's more involved. I really like not having to just sit there and fucking wait for all the Pokemon to like fucking like do their dumb little animation and go like blah blah or whatever. It's like, no, I'm actually playing the game. I'm having fun. I'm involved. And I don't know. It was also fun while streaming it to just break the game with like stat upgrades that just completely fucked my power level. Like it was over 9,000. It was over 9,000, guys. But it's a fun game, and it's got a neat plot, kind of a neat vibe. Of course, it spawned the Mario and Luigi RPG series, which is an honorable, venerable series. I was trying to say, like a pantheon of good games, you know, that sort of, I guess, petered off near the end there from what I heard. But solid trilogy, incredibly solid trilogy, and I will play the other ones. I think I like these more than Paper Mario a little bit. But like not enough for this to be a 9, where Thousand Year Door is an 8.5. I don't know. They're roughly on the same level. Good shit though. Ocarina of Time. You know, if you watched my streams of this, roughly what my opinion on Ocarina of Time is. I'd like to take a little step back from the extremes of my opinions on stream, where I said that if you like this game, you should be put to death. I think that was a bit far, but I can't pretend I had a fantastic time playing this game. The first time I played it, or this time on stream. But it shows its age. It shows its age incredibly hard, and it is not... It's the worst 3D Zelda for me, because every other Zelda surpassed it in like a significant way, you know? Majora is on the same engine, basically. Uses all the same like models, or a lot of the same models. But at least Majora has more going on for it in the story department, and has some cool like quality of life changes. And then Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, I seem to remember, have just fucking none of the frustration that I experienced in Ocarina or Majora, you know? And I've never played the 3DS remake. I've never played Master Quest. I've also never played Skyward Sword, so I can't rank that in my 3D Zeldas ranking. But I don't think I'll ever play the 3DS version, nor do I think I'll ever play Master Quest for sure. Because that's just, it's just harder, you know? Parts of it are great. Amazing soundtrack. That's the thing I really want to get across, is that it's so, the soundtrack is so fucking based. That's like one thing I'll never take away from this game. Of course, it's iconic. This is, many people cite this as the greatest game of all time. That is just simply not fucking true, but it is one of the games of all time, for sure. It's like, it's not even the best 3D Zelda. Like, it's, whatever. That shit, I think a lot of that opinion is just voiced by people who are more casually interested in gaming, who are like, oh yeah, I remember that game. I mean, I'm not trying to belittle people, but it's kind of like, you know, like, oh, I played that when I was younger. Yeah, that's such a cool game. And it's like, if you go back and play it now, it's like, there's so many things that just drive me up the fucking wall. And apparently, there were some things that were worsened by the fact that I was playing it on Wii Virtual Console. I've also heard that Wii Virtual Console is one of the best official ways to play the game, so whatever. But maybe that was adding to some of the difficulty, but I don't know. I just ended up so frustrated so often, and not from like, not in a particularly compelling way. Like, I was always just angry. And there's some very satisfying like puzzles and cool dungeons and shit. I really like the final dungeon, but a lot of it is just frustrating and annoying to play. And there's a lot of like unintuitive ass shit. This is when they were still shaking off that Zelda 1 bullshit, where it's like, kids have infinite free time, they can just figure it out, right? Turns out, no. You can hear my full opinion on the fucking Epona thing in the VODs, of course, but lest we forget, the way that you unlock Epona is quantifiably bullshit. Like, objectively bullshit. And here's the thing that makes me think, I'm not trying to sound like too much of a fucking hater here, but this is the thing that really makes me think that a lot of people have not played this game in a long time, is when I say that, people are like, what are you talking about? You get it from the ranch. You learn the song from the girl. And it's like, yeah, did you forget the part where you arbitrarily just have to do a certain step of it twice? For literally no reason, and with literally no indication that you have to do it twice. They just added an extra fuck you integer into the game. There are things like that where I'm like, damn, even for the time, this is a baffling fucking choice, you know? But whatever. It's not without its good points, but I don't know, 6. Like exactly the same enjoyment as Link to the Past, actually. I didn't even really plan for that, but both of them were just kind of like, why am I playing this again when Wind Waker exists, when Majora exists, you know? Like, fuck. I think I would not really recommend this because you've already played it. And if you haven't, you're not missing much. Maybe play the 3DS remake or something, or some, I don't know, maybe there's like some HD texture upscaling 60 FPS mod on like emulator or something. But no. Anyway, I don't think I have much else to say about this. Yeah, it's fine. I don't know. I feel like if I had played it on original N64 hardware, I would have just got annoyed at the fucking shitty N64 joystick. I know some people, some like speedrunners say the N64 joystick is the greatest joystick ever created, and they're wrong. It's weird that there's such experts and they're so wrong. But I don't know if that's actually like a prevailing opinion or anything, but maybe it is. Okay, let's move on from this. Star Fox 64. I'm pretty lukewarm on this. I don't really have much to say for or against it. It's fine. I think this game has inverted aiming that you cannot change in the settings, though. So that's going to be a big fat 0 from me, folks. Holy fucking shit. Why did anybody ever think this was a good idea? And I know people are going to be like, Grapefruit doesn't get how planes work. You turn the nose down, and it like catches the wind, and it makes you go. If you hit up, it makes the nose go down forward. It's like, hey, that's really cool. This game has a reticle, though, and like you need to like aim with the reticle. And I don't want to arbitrarily have like, I don't know. It's like trying to run a marathon, but at the beginning of the marathon, you're like tied up by your ankles, and all the blood is rushing to your head, and you're half unconscious. That's a terrible metaphor. It sucks dick. It's so fucking stupid. It boggles the goddamn mind. I truly, like, a lot of people have been like, oh, Grapefruit, why are you such an asshole about this? Whatever. It's just a small thing. It's like you can get adjusted to it. Yeah, but what if they just made it so when you up, and up goes up and up and down, and not like this fucking, like, can we please stop with this? Thankfully, they did end up stopping with this. This entire series. Wasn't that the reason why Star Fox Zero, I always think it's Star Fox X, but it's Star Fox Zero. That was the reason why they like had that weird Wii U touchpad aiming, right? Was because Shigeru Miyamoto was like, I can't decide whether to get rid of inverted aiming or to allow people, and I'm like, just let people choose. Like, what is so hard about that? Why literally why? But no, it's not a 0 out of 10. For me, I don't know, it was like a 6.5 out of 10. It's got an interesting format like Yoshi's Story, where you go through these different paths in the game, and I think that was honestly a really interesting take. There was just like this period of N64 games that did that, right? I'm having difficulty even thinking of other ones. Star Fox 64, Yoshi's Story. Are there even any other ones? Maybe those are the only two that I can actually think of. But it's neat, and I think it's like, it's a neat way to have exit points. This is going to sound so dumb to talk about exit points. I'm not a game designer, but I've heard about this concept that you should have points where the player goes like, okay, time to do something else, you know, and then I'll come back to this with a fresh outlook later, rather than, sometimes it can be kind of a sloppy process, putting down a game and then going back to it later, and you're kind of like, oh, what was I doing? What was going on in the story? I kind of forget what was like happening. Fuck. Whereas Star Fox 64, it's like, it's always going to start from the beginning, and you just sort of forge your own path. And it can, I'm sure it's cool to like discover the different paths, but I honestly, the inverted aiming ruined so much of it for me, and I never quite got the hang of it. You guys may have noticed, but I never got the hang of it, and just never, like, especially the big open dogfight things. Oh, I just did not like those at all. It just felt really frustrating and like sort of slow and clunky, and it's like every time you turn around you gotta go I don't know, it's like a big like long fucking cutscene every time. It's not even a cutscene. Something about it just felt super fucking awkward to me, and like slow and weird doing those big dog fights. I maybe I just sucked at it. It's entirely possible, but it didn't feel good. But that being said, it is cool. It's got cool music, very Zelda-esque music. I noted that, very Ocarina of Time sounding music, but good stuff. The graphics look pretty good for an N64 game, and like that first level is awesome. I forget, it's Corneria or whatever. I don't really even remember what the first level's called, but it's very cool. And then as the game gets more difficult, I'm kind of like, oh no. It just kind of becomes chaos. Like that rolling tank level in the desert where I was just constantly getting hit. I was like, I don't know what to do. You know? I felt like I floundered a lot in it. But it's neat. Maybe I'll play the fucking 3DS version someday, because I heard that fixed a lot of shit. But I don't know. It's not like my favorite series either. I've never checked out any other Star Fox games, and I don't really feel terribly inclined to, honestly. It's never been a thing that really stuck with me. Like, I never really gave much of a shit about Fox McCloud. What little is here is good, though. I like the basic storytelling when Rick May says, "You're becoming more like your father." I get a little twinkle in my eye, regardless. It's like, they were trying to tell an actual story. And I admire that, if nothing else. It's good for a laugh. I'd barely recommend this. It just barely squeaks by with a recommendation. Maybe check out the 3DS version again. Or Zero is just a remake again, right? It's Star Fox 64 again. And Star Fox 64 was kind of a remake of the original Star Fox, right? It's weird. I've been getting some questions, by the way. Let me make it all clear. I've played some fucking dumb, obscure games, including this little-known indie hit known as Donkey Kong, which is different from Donkey Kong Country. This is Jumpman. This is the one that's good. This is the based fucking game. Whereas this is this is 75M in Smash. And there is a whole series, Donkey Kong Jr., and Donkey Kong 3. There is no Donkey Kong 2 because arcade games are hell. I would not blame anyone. Somebody was like, why does he hate Donkey Kong so much? It's like, I don't blame you, man. It's confusing. And there's also a game just simply called Yoshi. And that's a tile swapping game. It's available on NSO, which I unsubscribed from because fuck Nintendo. Anyway, let me take a drink here. Directly outside my door. Pokemon Snap. Re-rate Tetris Attack to 11. Bum, bum, bum. Anyway, Pokemon Snap. This is probably, of all the N64 games that I played recently, the best one. It was like the best aged one. It too has inverted aiming, but get this, guys. It has this little thing called an options screen, and when you go there, it has a thing called an option where you can turn the inverted aiming off. It's a masterpiece. It's a 10 out of 10. It's a perfect game. It's that simple. It's really, like, seriously, Shigeru Miyamoto. This whole, like, oh, we need to do the Wii U tablet. That's it. Revolutionary, as a chat member has put it. Fucking revolutionary development. You can just turn it off. And it's an N64 game with settings, which is kind of weird, but I guess some of them do have that. No, it's not a perfect 10, but it has aged pretty goddamn well. It's a nice, simple concept, and it's like a perfect use of Pokemon. Like it just fits. Pokemon are just perfect for this idea of like cataloging different things. Apparently this game was originally just going to be, it was going to try to be like photorealistic or something, and it was maybe not photorealistic, but it was just going to be like taking pictures of animals rather than Pokemon. And it's like, Star Fox 1 and 2 had it. What, the option to uninvert the aim? That's fucking nuts. If true. Huge if true. That was my one regret unsubscribing from Nintendo Switch Online, was Star Fox 2. I still haven't managed to find a SNES ROM of it. You can find like these weird like run it on your Switch ROMs, but I don't want to run it on my Switch. I want to run it on fucking like Z-SNES, you know? But Pokemon Snap, very cool. It's a cute idea. I can't really think of another game that's like this. I remember playing Dead Rising with Riley and just being like, the picture taking mechanic in that was just like, bruh, I don't care about doing this. Like I know the character is a photographer, but making the gameplay literally entirely about taking pictures is great. It's pretty natural. It's like, you know, hey, cool, there's a Pokemon doing a cool thing. Time to snap, 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 snap. You know, take a bunch of shots so you get one good one. And then you pick through them at the end of the level. It's oddly satisfying. It's an oddly satisfying game to play. And then Professor Oak is like, you're a good little boy. You get the cum-cums. Or what? I don't know. That's bad to say. But it's fun. It's got good music. The Pokemon are well animated. There's a lot of charm and personality put into it. It's a little clunky feeling, just a little bit, but it's not, it doesn't feel like you're fighting the game, unlike certain N64 titles. Anyway, should I, what should I rank this? This is like a solid 7.5 game. And I don't even really like Pokemon that much. Like, I'm not a huge Pokemon guy. But like, solid fucking N64 game. This is like up with Mario 64 as like, you almost forget that it's an N64 game, and then you look down at your hand and you see the fucking god-awful controller and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in hell. Also, somebody else was asking, is Rhythm Tengoku not on here? No, that's this. I listed it as Rhythm Heaven Silver because I have a rule that, like, if I do a mod, I list the mod kind of like Triforce and Kephoros here, for instance. Although I've not actually done that 100% consistently because I had some smaller mods for Smash Wii U that I guess I didn't list on here. But they didn't have, like, their own streams. I don't know. It makes sense in my Mongo brain. The whole way that I, like, laid out this spreadsheet was, in retrospect, terrible. It's just a disaster because I tried to, like, sort these games by, like, series, and then I kind of got carried away and was like, all the Nintendo games are at the top now. And then that sort of made it so whenever I played a new Nintendo game, I had to add it. So we've been keeping up real well on the Nintendo games that I've been playing recently, but we keep just barely making any progress through the actual list of games. So my goal is to get up to Reveal the Deep today. Might not actually get all the way there. And then next stream, I'll do all the Half-Life games. And then I have a bunch of, like, you know, we've got a big streak of, like, shitty NES games here. Well, and Tetris. And yep, I count Ghosts and Goblins. I guess Contra is pretty good. And then we've got, like, at some point, I'll just do all the arcade games because I sorted them all together. And then at the very bottom, we have Dark Souls, Humongous Entertainment games, PopCap games, and Street Fighter. And yeah, Darkstalkers and shit are in there. Eat my ass. Have you guys been hearing background noise this stream, by the way? Is that... How are we doing on that? How are you guys feeling? Okay. Where were we? Rhythm Heaven. Guys, I'm going to talk about Rhythm Heaven for the first time. Audio is great. Cool. Yeah, I'm sure you guys are picking up on some little peaks here and there. I apologize. I'm sure I have expressed plenty of frustration at this, but they just... The instant I fucking went live, slam! Blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Rhythm Heaven. gonna talk about it for the first time. Teehee. This game's awesome. You guys know I love Rhythm Heaven. That being said, I think all three of these games, part of the reason why I knocked Fever down from a 10 to a 9.5 is I think every single one of them is a 9.5. I think they are all exemplary. Like, these are Nintendo games that do reach beyond, I think. They go even further beyond. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, where, like, it feels like there's something greater to proceedings. I don't even really know how to phrase this. It's like, one, it's genuinely going to make people better at music, like, just straight up. And that's such a noble pursuit, is getting people, and not only people, but kids in particular, instilling them with a love of music is like one of the most based things a human can do on this planet. You know, like, I have nothing but respect for, like, elementary school music teachers, you know? And Rhythm Heaven it's just got a lot of soul, and it's so polished and charming and just well made and fun. I don't know. I always end up getting a little emotional beating these games for whatever reason, because they just they touch a certain part of my heart, I guess. But my elementary school music teacher was a twat. I'm sure somebody else said that, by the way, not mine. I'm sure some of them are just sitting there like, we'll watch Stomp Out Loud again today, class. Do you guys remember, any kids in my generation remember in music class whenever the teacher was like hungover or whatever? That's a John Mulaney bit. I don't know, they probably weren't actually hungover, but whenever we would watch a movie, it was always Stomp Out Loud, which Stomp is that band that they're like a percussion group that uses non-traditional instruments. You know, they bang on pots and pans and shit like that. I remember thinking Stomp was fucking cool when I was younger, though, and it was probably because we watched Stomp Out Loud about 10 times. And I saw Stomp live at a certain point. Anyway, fantastic series. I was just listening to Space Soccer earlier today. Na 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 na. Just like great songs, and the gameplay just meshes with the songs so perfectly. And it's like looking at other games that sort of try to do Rhythm Heaven's thing, like Beat City. We played Beat City recently. That's all the way at the fucking bottom of the list. Maybe I should zoom down and do that. Maybe if I start doing stuff at the bottom of the list, it will like incentivize me to like go faster because of like obsessive compulsion. You play or see games that are like trying to do Rhythm Heaven's thing without like the polish and without like the heart. Oh, my music just skipped like crazy. You guys can't hear it though. Anyway, you see that like it's not, you don't just make a bunch of mini games and put music and then you're done. It's not like an easy, lazy thing. Like, there's a shocking amount of effort and polish that goes into making these games, and it's really admirable. And this one in particular has the touchscreen gimmick, which I'm sort of in two minds about. It is fun and cool and well done and well implemented. And they have creative uses of it. Like, it's kind of got that Rhythm Tengoku experimental feel to it. But it's it can lead to moments, a lot more moments than the other games where you're like, what? I did that. What are you talking about? That being said, I did emulate it. Maybe it's better on actual hardware, but I've heard it is fiddly on actual hardware as well. And that there are certain minigames like Moai Doo-Wop that just don't feel like they're exactly perfectly tuned. And in a game that's so finely tuned, that can really stick out, you know? But yeah, it's very cool. It's so fun. It's just simply fun. And it enriches my life so much. I don't know. I never suspected that this silly one-button rhythm game would enrich my life so much, but it did. And it's fun going for the perfects and trying to get those superbs and shit. That being said, this one, I probably like the other two. Here's an update to those of you who are interested in my rhythm heavening career. Fever, I have I've had all the fucking perfects except Remix 10 for ages. Literally like once a month, I'll sit down for like an hour and do Remix 10 attempts. Last time, I got to the packing pests portion at the very end, and my hands were shaking and my heart was pounding so much that I just like slipped and fucked up. It was miserable. But Rhythm Heaven Silver, or Rhythm Tengoku, I got all the perfects in that, and I never expected to do that. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I'm trying to say these games do a great job of like training you at that sort of shit. And it's shocking how achievable they are, even though they kind of have that difficult perfecting system, you know, where you have to go for them in the heat of the moment. That being said, emulating Rhythm Heaven DS, I just don't feel like going for all the perfects. I never was struck with that same like, oh, I gotta like grind away at them all, because it is fun to just sit there and grind away, but didn't really get that inclination with this game. It was just kind of like, But that being said, there's lots of great games on here. There's lots of them that are like exclusive to this one, like Love Lab, that totally deserve to be in other ones, but are not, I think. Like there's Megamix, I don't think has Love Lab, which is just a goddamn crime. But Megamix, it seems like it would be almost impossible when they were making Megamix to include all the games that Space Soccer is gone too. That people loved, like all the crowd pleasers, like only have the most based ones. I guess, you know, I don't think they brought back like Fireworks from Rhythm Tengoku and shit like that. Anyway, good fucking game. Like if Megamix didn't exist, this would be like one of the best trilogies ever created. And it's not even really like a strictly speaking like a traditional style trilogy, of course, but they're just awesome. I also like one more thing I'll mention before leaving is I like that they always have some kind of ambitious element. Like Rhythm Heaven Silver or Rhythm Tengoku was the last game released on GBA, right? And it was like when the GBA was at the height of its tech, so they had a bunch of like they had a bunch of shit. I don't know if they actually like did anything technically fancy, but the sound quality is so fucking good for a GBA game. And they got that shit where like they have those free moving objects like the ball in Toss Boys that have that like weird visual effect to them. And then in Rhythm Heaven, they had a similar level of experimentality. I don't think that's a thing you say. I don't think that's a word. But some of the mini games are like 3D, you know, and some of them like Love Lizards is a little Love Lizards and Love Lab, actually, I'm now thinking about it. Both the love themed mini games have like that sort of like shaking gameplay rather than flicking or tapping. I really appreciate that experimental shit, and I think that is one thing that is maybe ever so slightly lacking in Fever, is that there's not as many of those like just weird out there mini games, you know. Anyway, fantastic series. I love them. Yeah, it's a cool mix of styles, and everything that's 2D is super clean. Everything that's 3D is super clean. I don't know. It's cool too because they just go into 3D and then just leave and then don't do 3D for like 10 mini games and then do 3D again. And it's like, oh, we're just doing. You just sort of take it in stride at a certain point. Anyway. Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs. Whoa. Would you guys like to hear the hottest take of all time? I liked this. I got more enjoyment out of this than the original Amnesia. And I don't know if it's just because I like missed the boat on the original Amnesia or what. But I liked, I don't know. Amnesia: The Dark Descent ended up being kind of like goofy for me. No, not even that. It ended up just being kind of boring for me. It was like there were some scary, cool, tense moments, but a lot of it was just sort of wandering around hallways, doing these sort of like basic inventory puzzles, getting the potions, or getting the cogs to turn the thing, or whatever. And I just was not enthralled by it. Whereas Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs had this like goofy, campy, weird element to it. I think really admirable of the developers of this game to double down on the piss, shit, and cum aesthetic too. There's a lot of piss, there's a lot of shit, there's a lot of cum, and that's just the sign of a godlike game. But really, I did enjoy what was there. I didn't vibe with like 100% of the writing, but I thought it was actually kind of an interesting, like I couldn't even tell you, I don't even remember what Amnesia 1's story was really about, like besides a guy who has amnesia is like stumbling around fighting monsters or whatever, or running away from monsters. Like I remember there was a guy that always talked my fucking ear off. He was like Agrippa or whatever. And he was just a head, or he was in like a torture machine, and was he the same guy at the end? I don't even remember. But Amnesia: Machine for Pigs was like trying to be heady and philosophical, and sometimes disappeared firmly up its own ass. But at the same time, I liked what was going on. It felt like, I don't know, it felt like it was, oh, this game is this is like the other end of the spectrum from a Mario game. It's like the anti 8.5 game is like, it's not an 8.5 or higher, but it's like it aspires to higher thought, but it doesn't have really compelling gameplay or really like fun gameplay, you know. I never really vibed with horror games at all, because I think fun is underrated. I think that I enjoy enjoying myself, and a lot of horror games are just simply not in the moment actually fun. They're just like there, you know. And it's like, I get that you're supposed to have like, it's an emotional high rather than something you're supposed to enjoy for fun, but I just don't really get a kick out of it, especially because I'm usually not immersed enough to actually be scared by things. Like every once in a while I'll get jump scared and I'll be like, oh, ho, ho, you got me. But I don't know. There was one part of Amnesia: Machine for Pigs that was fucking awesome, that really stuck out in my mind. Like I love all the machinery stuff, activating all the old machines, the part where it sprays you with like pig cum or whatever. I like the lever that you turn that goes ting, for instance. But the part where you're crawling through a giant pipe and you hear the pipe like rumbling and going, and you're like, oh god, like what is gonna, am I gonna get literally just like, am I gonna vanish in a torrent of like piss, shit, and cum? And that dread was real, and I really, that was an immersive moment. Good sound design, I think, helped with that a lot, and good visual design. But it's not a terrible game, and I genuinely got more enjoyment out of this than out of the original one. I would give this like a 7. It's not mind-blowing. I liked a lot of the imagery, a lot of like the machinery stuff. I really liked, I guess this is slightly spoilery, but near the end, I'll keep it light. There's kind of like a machine Aztec temple looking thing that I really got a kick out of. That was really cool to me. But it is cheesy. I can see how some people who maybe would appreciate Amnesia: The Dark Descent for having a bit more subtlety would think that this was just beating you over the head with its metaphors. And it is. It definitely is. Did you get... some of you may have noticed while watching my playthrough of this game, and this is kind of subtle stuff, so only some of you may have picked up on this, but they were kind of going for a thing where they were saying that humans, right, are like pigs. I don't know if anybody picked up on this. It's very subtly hinted at, but they were in fact going for that type of thing. But in the end, I still liked it. And I really liked that one part where you're like running through the city and there's just like fucking pandemonium. And the guy's like, I've unleashed my army of pigs. He doesn't actually say that. He's still spouting like philosophical bullshit, but where like it's just like in complete chaos, and you can hear like the squeals of like the nauseating fucking like pig men just like rampaging through and destroying everything. And it's a great, it's a metaphor that works. I'm a guy who has never really, like, some people I feel like just wrinkle their fucking nose in disgust when they see something that's like too heavy-handed, or that has a message that it's like trying to beat you over the head with. I personally am like, hey, this is better than literally no message, which so much media goes for. Like, I definitely prefer something that's a little heavy-handed or ham-fisted than something that just doesn't really have much at all to hang on to. Like, Amnesia: The Dark Descent maybe has some sort of, like, philosophy or meaning, or some sort of something you're supposed to really get from it, but I didn't really get that, whereas Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs, I got something, at least, you know? Another tentative yes. It's not a masterpiece, and it's a masterpiece, really, is what it is. It's nothing life-changing, but it's neat, and there were many neat things in it. I really liked the part where they said, hey, these pig monsters are so fucking sick of smelling piss and shit that they turned invisible. They, like, unhooked themselves from the physical universe and now exist as, like, quantum unbeings. I don't even know how to put it, but that really was a plot point in that game. And it was kind of an excuse. It was weird because it was kind of an excuse to just use the invisible water monster from the first game. But, oh, and remember the electric pig monster near the end that I, like, accidentally speed ran killing? Man, that should have made it into Twitch scraps. Nobody ever clipped that, I just realized. Whatever. Normality. This is the game that we left off on last time. This game is very cool. That being said, I will make it perfectly clear up front that this is a B game. It's like a B movie. And not like Jerry Seinfeld B movie. It's bad. But that being said, this is one of the best bad games I've ever played. Like, if, you know, in the so bad it's good type of way. It is a punkish 2.5D first-person point-and-click adventure game where you may play as a man named Cunt Cuntson. Yes, we do have an emote. If you've ever wondered what that redheaded guy emote is, hold on. For the VOD viewers, maybe I'll bring that up. It's very strange. It's got this very sort of like 90s. Oh god, I just kicked my fucking computer. Hope I don't go offline. It's got this very 90s like hell yeah, cool, yeah, let's go, yeah, cool type of style to it that is very amusing. It's got that early. It's got that like early 3D where everything was like compressed to shit. This is sprite art, but there's the emote for you, Kent. That's the main character of the game. It's got a weird amount of personality though. Like there are things that I genuinely admire about Normality. That it's like it went for something. The game's story is kind of like it's like funky George Orwell 1984. It's actually more like Brazil, I guess. That would be a more apt comparison. But it's like funny 1984, and it's not fun, and you'll definitely need a guide to play through it. I find that it's a very unintuitive game. I think at a certain point I got soft locked, right? Like I couldn't progress at a certain point. I went past a point of no return, and there was a thing that I needed before the point of no return or some shit like that, which seems really sloppy. But then the game also has like it has like a brief branching path at one point where you can like do different things in the story but still end up at the same place technically, and there's like puzzles that have multiple solutions and shit like that. Yeah, Brazil is a film, by the way. To people who don't know, Brazil is a movie that is like a parody. It's a great movie. Loose parody of 1984. I'm not just talking about the country. That's understandable that you might get confused. It's like the game Yoshi. Normality is cool, though, and I might just be of this opinion because it is because I'm a streamer and I streamed the game, and sometimes streaming something, playing any bad game like with friends or on stream, it makes it a little more bearable, I think. And despite the fact that I had to use a guide, despite the fact that there was really unintuitive shit, I had a great time. And it's just funny looking through and seeing all the ridiculous shit that you do. It's kind of mortifying because Kent Knutson is like a terrorist. Like he goes through and like it's all about like, yeah, we're like rebelling against our oppressive overlords by doing like Project Mayhem shit from Fight Club, basically, where we're like burning, we like set a big like statue on fire so that a guy will try to put it out with a fire extinguisher, and the fire extinguisher is full of yellow paint, so he paints it yellow or something like that. And we blow up a mall at one point, and one of the like evil guards gets this fucking iron bar jutting out of his head, and he like it like lobotomizes him, and they're like, oh good, this is good, we can use this guy to get into like the evil society or whatever, into like the secret society, whatever. It's very morally questionable, and it's just all over the place. Very weird. It like tries to be bright and poppy and sort of day glow while also being really dark and weird. There's like people in torture cubicles and stuff. You like take a guy out of a torture cubicle and then just put him right back, and like not even for any reason, just out of like pure spite. Oh, and there's mocap. There's motion capture in this game. It's very early mocap, and all of the cutscenes just look like dog shit too, but in the most amusing way. Hold on, normality cutscene. Let's just see if I can find an image of what some of the cutscenes look like for this game. Oh shit. Yo, what the fuck? Guys, Kent Knutson hit the fucking dab. Holy shit, that's powerful. Oh my god. But yeah, it's got that kind of vibe. This game's on Steam, by the way. It's on fucking Steam. It's on Good Old Games and Steam. Normally getting these old games to run is a fucking absolute nightmare. But thankfully there's like a front end that you can just run on a modern PC and it'll just be fine, which is great. Here's the cover art. I just feel like this is an underappreciated gem of a B game. The main bad guy's name is Penis Deluxe. But it's like his name is Paul and then his last name is Nistelux or something like that. So when you abbreviate it like Animal Crossing style, it becomes Penis Deluxe, which is terrible. So bad, but so good. So yeah, it's like a weirdly ambitious game that fell flat, but in a fascinating, funny way. Which brings me to, do I want to recommend it, or like what do I want to rank it? I think yes, I recommend it, while keeping fully in mind that it is a bad game, and it's a B game. It's very terrible, but there are very amusing things about it. If you're into these old types of like point and click adventures, you know, I'm gonna say it, Grim Fandango vibes. I know this will maybe upset fans of Grim Fandango, but similar like cokehead logic, early 3D art that's kind of nostalgic and whack looking. Grim Fandango looks and is way better than Normality, but kind of a similar vibe, if you're into that sort of thing. Anywho, oh, bad music too. It's not got good music. It's unfortunate. Remember that song? I truly, like, I want to write NA here. instead of a number. I'm truly like part of the reason I was singing there is because I'm stalling because I have no idea what to rank this game. I don't know. It's like a 7. I found it like that's my enjoyment level that I got out of it. Sometimes you just got to go with the first number that comes to mind. And like this game is objectively not a fucking 7, but that's like how goofy and fun it is at the same time. 0 out of 10 would recommend. Paul Nis Music. But yeah, there's my complicated review of Normality. It's interesting. It's very interesting to look at. But not necessarily traditional fun in the way that we've all come to know and love it. Okay, Aviary Attorney. This is one I'm a lot less qualified to talk about. This was one of those playthroughs where it was like not very popular, and I kept doing this thing where I would wait like a month between new installments of it, so I did not remember where the story was going at all. But this is basically, to those of you who don't know, Aviary Attorney is like an Ace Attorney game. I have never played an Ace Attorney game, but from what I've seen of Ace Attorney games, it seems like Aviary Attorney kind of falls short in a few aspects. The one main thing is that every character is a bird. Oh, excuse me. Every character is a bird, and it's got a cool art style. Hold on, maybe, should I like, I just Googled the word aviary, like that would do something. I'm an asshole. Maybe I should bring up like visual aids for some of these things, you know, maybe. Why have I not been doing that? I guess it's extra work. But the characters, it's all rendered in this kind of neat, old-timey style. That being said, I really wish there was more animation. I just really wish the characters moved and emoted more, because these images, these 2 birds that you're looking at right here, yeah, hope you like those if you're playing this game, because you'll be looking at those 2 JPEGs for like the whole video game. And like their mouths move a little bit, I think, and like every once in a while they'll have a very slight animation. But it's just, I really wish, like, you know, I'm not saying it has to be like Ace Attorney, but I you know, when I think of Ace Attorney, I think of like, you know, objection, him slamming the table and him pointing, and like neat drawings at the very least. But here it feels like these drawings were probably pretty hard to like come up with, like they're very detailed, and it feels like maybe they just focused on making like one sprite for every character, and then we're like, okay, that's good, call it a day. But that being said, there were things that I enjoyed about this. The writing was good, and I liked it. Had a sense of humor, you know. It's not just completely fucking stuffy and dumb. You do solve not real mysteries, but, you know, legit mysteries that are not just total bullshit, and it's got a very Sherlock Holmesy feel to it, of course. I think there was even like, there was kind of an arc that felt like a straight up Sherlock Holmes reference to, I forget exactly what happened, but it was something like we like defended someone in court, and then it turned out that they were actually guilty or something, and they were like, you've done well, Aviary Attorney, you protected my guilty name or something. It's like, I don't even remember. That's not even a Sherlock Holmes thing, is it? What am I talking about? Anyway, it's cool. I didn't really get that much of a kick out of it, though, frankly, as evidenced by the fact that I didn't really play it very frequently. And there were many things that I felt were lacking. There were these parts where it was like, now it's time to do some detective work, and it would just show me a room, and I had to like awkwardly like click. Remember those parts where I had to like navigate a map and go to different rooms and click on things in the environment? It just felt like not very natural. It just kind of felt like I need to find the right arbitrary thing to progress the story rather than actual detection. It's so hard to make an actual detective game, you know? But there were neat things about it. There's no voice acting, which is whatever. But it's kind of neat, not really my type of vibe, and I wish it was just a little more extravagant or like a little more lively. I don't know. Did it even have music? I remember I think it did, but it was like light background music, and there was like, they had these cutscenes that look like newspaper articles, like old-timey newspaper articles, right? It had a cool style. It was a very, very interesting and unique style. But I'm struggling to even like say anything about it because it's not terribly exceptional otherwise, and like I don't feel like I'm a connoisseur of these types of games to be able to really judge it well. It was charming though. It's not bad. That being said, I don't know if I would recommend it, unfortunately. I probably got like a 5 out of this personally. And yeah, I don't know. I feel bad, but I don't really have much else to say. Shovel Knight, on the other hand. Holy fuck, guys. Shovel Knight, so good. Such an amazing game. And one of the best deals in gaming, I think, the treasure trove. Because I don't know if people know this. There's 4 Shovel Knight games. I mean, there's more, but there's more on this list. But there's 4 main Shovel Knight games, and they're all dank. Shovel Knight 1, Shovel of Hope, is just an awesome, conventional, like, sort of nostalgia bait type thing, but just done perfectly. Jake Kaufman absolutely killed it on the soundtrack. Such an amazing soundtrack. And great art style. They really just nailed the aesthetic without it feeling actually old and archaic. You know? It's just perfect. They just did so well, and like everything's well themed. This is a perfect example of like taking. It almost takes a little bit too much of a heavy like Mega Man influence, but like not really. It's very it has a ton of obvious influences, but it mixes them up so much, and it uses them so well and so naturally that it never feels like, remember DuckTales? Do you remember Zelda 2? Hey guys, remember Ghosts and Goblins? Resurrection? None of that. It's just good. It's just well made. It's like they actually understood what made retro games fun, but didn't feel shackled to old tropes as well. Like they didn't put the fucking live system in there. Instead, it's got the Dark Souls-esque, like, you know, you drop some money. Just fun. Just simply fun. It looks great. It sounds great. It plays fantastic. It's really satisfying to tear ass through some of these levels. It's awesome. This is like a 9 out of 10 game. And I'm going to rank all of these other ones individually too, but just know that like all of these get my seal of approval. You know? Like let's just go through here and yes, 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 no. That's a cliffhanger for you. What? Why he doesn't like Shovel Knight Showdown? I don't think many people do like Shovel Knight Showdown, actually. I didn't hear much about it after it came out. That being said, someone said Shovel Knight gets 10s around the board in my little brain. Yeah. It's great. Like, I did consider just going but that's just not the truth for me, at least personally. Because again, these numbers are my personal enjoyment of a game. Somebody was bemoaning that I gave Dead Rising a 4. I just didn't get much out of it. I just did not get much out of Dead Rising. I'm sorry. I made this clear when I reviewed it, which is why it's bad to take these numbers out of context. You got to remember, you got to listen to the review, because I might have things to say about it that put the number in context. I didn't really play most of Dead Rising, or most of Dead Rising was not, it was Riley playing, actually. Anyway, Showdown is weird. Showdown is goofy fun. Showdown blows. I didn't like Showdown very much. Anyway, basically, to those of you who don't know, what they did was it was a whole Kickstarter thing. And man, can you imagine like a world where they had this Kickstarter thing with Shovel Knight where they're like, okay, we're going to make these campaigns where you play as a boss. Can you imagine if they just did the absolute bare minimum on that and didn't make 4 games out of it? That being said, let's calm down, because Plague of Shadows is like kind of the lesser of this quadrilogy. It's not it's not the best, especially compared to Specter of Torment and King of Cards, because it is more or less, yeah, just going through the main Shovel Knight campaign as a different character with different movement. And they did adjust some things. I like everything that's there. That's like, oh, you know, you see Shovel Knight walking around in the town in the background or above your underground lair, and there's like these alternating paths that you take so that you don't actually cross paths with Shovel Knight until it's actually time. I love the fact that I think Plague, Spectre, and King all have a moment where you fight Shovel Knight in them, which is amazing. It just works. Well constructed. But yeah, the levels were not someone said that they're not designed around the character, and like, yeah, that's true. And they did adjust some levels to be more designed around this character, but some of them are pretty much unchanged from what I recall, and it just feels like they were getting the kinks out of the system at this point when they made it. That being said, it is great. This is like 8.5 for me. One thing that never really clicked for me, as much as I love Plague Knight, I remember when I first played through Shovel Knight before any of these DLCs existed, I was like, Plague Knight's my favorite one. He's the coolest boss. Best music. But playing as him was cool, but a little awkward, and I didn't really get a feel for the casings. Like the bomb casings and like the fuses or whatever. You can like mix and match the different bomb types, and I like a game where you just have like one definitive attack, you know? Like in this one aspect, I kind of almost prefer Sekiro over something like Dark Souls, where it's like in Dark Souls I've always got this nagging feeling in the back of my mind of like, am I not using the right weapon for this? Whereas in Sekiro, it's like, I'm using the sword. There's a sword, and that's all you got. More or less. You got the ninja tools and skill trees and shit like that. But on its most basic level, it's like, I don't know. I always felt a little iffy about that whole system. Especially because I felt like I never really internalized what all the different like casings and fuses and shit did. It does have a good ending. I didn't really like the final boss, and I was informed people were like, you just suck at fighting it. I felt like it was a really awkward boss. I'm sorry. Games are for people, and I'm a people. And I thought it was really awkward. It was like it has a hitbox that's like just barely off the ground. So you have to like do a tiny little jump every time you want to like actually shoot it and do damage to it. It was just weird. I thought it was awkward. Everyone hates the final boss. That's not the impression I got when I streamed it. Everybody said I was the stupidest, biggest asshole in the universe, and that boss is great. That's not really what people said, but I remember getting some flack for saying that boss was bad, so it's vindicating to hear that. Or you could just use the lob bombs, and there you go. I don't fucking remember what the lob bombs do. Like, that was a constant thing in that game of, like, I'm sure there is a better bomb combination that I could use for this, but, like, I'm not just gonna sit there and try every single combination to see what will work. Like, I don't know. I much prefer shovel. I have shovel. It attacks, and it attacks, and that's all. And all the enemies are designed around that, rather than this whole like variable thing, you know? Must have been a psy-op. Everyone hates that boss. But yeah, didn't really like that part very much. That being said, Specter of Torment or Plague of Shadows is still solid. It's just not, it's when they were kind of like shaking out the kinks. Then Specter of Torment, this shit is my jam, dude. This one is so good. I would probably give this a 9.5. The one thing, like the little story segments where you are like with your Ninja Gaiden friend having adventures, I didn't really get invested in those terribly hard, but it's so fun. And this is the one where they were like, okay, we could just make more levels for this guy, but how about we make his moveset like pretty radically different and then just make entirely new levels for him. And I think they went a really cool direction where they made it like a prequel game, and it's like you go to all the levels before they were the levels that you see in Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope and Plague of Shadows. So like there are still the same vibes of the levels, and there's the same bosses. I think, do they have different moves, actually? I don't know. Never really thought about this. But they can mix up the levels so that the levels are just completely custom to each character. And they did this for both Specter of Torment and King of Cards, and it was an amazing decision. The rail grinding is just fun. All the, like, I felt like a lot of these games have like special moves. Like Shovel Knight had the trinkets, charms, runes, whatever. There's a different term for it in every game, but the little thingies that you can use, the little like special tricks, I think they were the coolest in Specter of Torment. I really like that one where you go whoosh and you just like zoom towards the nearest enemy and slash them. They had a really fun like side challenge built around that. Specter of Torment has the tower. What is it called exactly? Let me look this up. Specter of Torment. Tower of Fate. Yeah. Is that it? No, wait. What was there was a thing. Whatever. There was a fucking thing that was like an infinite tower. It wasn't infinite, but it was like slightly randomly generated, or it was like a gauntlet of challenges, and it like inserts you at a random point in the gauntlet or something like that. Super cool. One of my favorite side nodes in any of these games. Probably my favorite. And I wish every Shovel Knight game had this. Like, they all have some kind of like weird mini game. Like, I guess there's like the Potion Girl mini game in Shovel Knight 1. But this one was just so fucking fun. Made me feel like such a badass. The music is so good. I don't think Plague of Shadows had very much unique music to it, but Specter of Torment has a whole new litany of tracks, and some really, really good ones, too. Was this... What was... It was King of Cards that took place on, like, an airship for a certain period of time, right? I'm trying to remember which one of these games is the one where, and I guess this is kind of a spoiler, there's a part where you're at the hub world and fucking Propeller Knight just shows up out of nowhere and you have like an impromptu fight with him. Whatever game had that shit was fucking based. I think it was King of Cards, but I can't be sure. But that shit was just awesome. They have lots of cute, cool little moments like that. I think that moment actually did not get captured on stream. I think I was just like futzing around in the hub world before a stream, and then that happened, and I was like, fuck, I should have been streaming for that. That was so cool. But really great stuff. I guess people are saying that's King of Cards. I guess I kind of got ahead of myself, huh? But very fucking cool. It's just super fun. The final boss was a huge step up from Plague of Shadows' final boss. I loved the like rail grinding. It felt like a Sonic boss almost. It was super cool. Fantastic music, great levels that are actually designed around the character. It's basically they polished everything that went a little awry in Plague of Shadows, and I love it. I didn't really give a shit about Specter Knight before this came out, but then afterwards I was like, wow, he's cool. I like it. And I do like that, like, they do try to give these characters a good emotional story, and they never try to go too complicated with it either. It's like there's a very simple, like Shovel Knight and Shield Knight in the first game have this very simple, like they're they're compatriots. They work well together. In that final fight, there's a very cool, in the final boss, there's a very cool thing where you get to see them like work as a team, and it's very good ludonarrative gameplay. Plague of Shadows has like the whole relationship between Plague Knight and I think her name is Mona, right? They keep it simple, but they actually like give it the attention it deserves and like and develop it well, which I appreciate. And there's the story elements in Specter of Torment too about how he became the titular Specter of Torment. It was something I don't even really remember exactly what happened. His friend got like possessed or something, right? No, I think the guy that got possessed was different from his ninja buddy. He like killed his ninja buddy. I actually don't even remember, but it was good. The ultimate bromance. But fantastic, just fantastic. So fucking good in all ways. I'm trying to think, like, why is it a 9.5 and not a 10? I don't know. I suppose, like, I didn't really, like I said, I didn't get that invested in, like, the sepia tone or, like, the black and white parts where you're playing in the past. That didn't really click with me. I'm sure there's other things that make it not a perfect 10. It doesn't feel right to give it a perfect 10. Anyway. King of Cards. Sorry, my music just skipped again. I've literally been listening to Dan's theme from Street Fighter V this entire time, by the way. I've had it on loop and just been hitting repeat. It's a good song. They basically just took his theme in Street Fighter Alpha and like updated it and made it sound modern. Anyway, King of Cards. This one was cool. It's the big thing. Let me get the big thing out of the way straight away. Joustus. Didn't like it. Just wasn't a fan of Joustus. I have said this many times. I'm not a guy who likes virtual card games. I just don't like them. I find them pretty unimaginative, and I know everybody who played Inscription will start jumping around like the little soot balls in Spirited Away and throwing things around the room and all that. I'm sure Inscription is really cool. It looks neat. But I just don't give a shit about pushing little virtual cards around on a virtual table. I remember you literally mashed through the tutorial and then said Joustus made no sense. I guarantee you're wrong. I guarantee you are misremembering that. I just didn't like it. I just don't care. I am certain you are wrong. I know that's like a rhetoric people like to implant when streamer doesn't like their thing. I literally just wanted it to just go away. I just wanted to play a fucking platformer. Like, I don't think this is unreasonable, too. Like, I don't think I'm, like, fucking cringe for wanting to just play a platformer in a series that has been 3 platformers up until now. And I just didn't care, man. And one thing that particularly irritated me was every NPC in the fucking game just says, hey, want to play Joustus? And I was like, man, what happened to that, like, cute, quirky, charming dialogue? And, like, did they just run out of things to have these characters say? Or what? They all just say, yeah, let's just play Joustus, fuck it. And I'm like, man, this is kind of lame. It's like, I wasn't, like, super thirsting for more dialogue from this series that's had 3 games where all these NPCs have been, you know, interactable, and they all have... It's like they've run through all the lines that they can give these characters at this point. I don't know. Yeah, you want to play a hand of Caravan? But, yes, you can just ignore Joustus. I played it that one time. Everybody got super mad at me because I was like, get this out of my fucking face. Like, I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I was just like, get this out of my sight. I just don't want to do this. I just don't care at all. And I just feel like such a significant portion of the game is taken up by it, though, that I still felt its presence even though I was ignoring it the whole time. That being said, the rest of the game is really good and amazing. It's just as good as Specter of Torment. If Specter of Torment is a little bit Ninja Gaiden, King of Cards is a little bit Mario, it's a little bit Wario Land. It's the funniest. Somebody said it's the funniest campaign. We've never had a funnier character than this. I butchered that line. But amazing levels. They really deviated too. Like they kind of like mixed up the format of the levels, making them a lot shorter but more plentiful, like Mario 3. Even the world map, I think, was changed. Actually, the world map was always kind of Mario 3. But they adjusted the gameplay. They kind of like schmixed it the fuck up, but it feels amazing. I love King Knight's moveset. The shoulder bash is a very satisfying move, and then he does that little spin after, and then you can like bounce on enemies after that. They built so many good levels and interesting platforming challenges out of that. I think King of Cards reuses a lot of assets and some music from Specter of Torment. I don't know. It's got less new stuff, I think, in terms of like sprites and shit. But yeah, you know what left a bad taste in my mouth though? The end of this campaign. I felt like empty inside. It was something, I don't even really remember specifically what it was, but it was something about like, he like disrespects his mom, who's been nothing but kind and loving to him his entire life. And he like crushes her under his mighty boot or whatever the second he gets actual power. And I get that we're not supposed to like King Knight as a character. Like, he's not supposed to be a good guy. He's a villain. He's like the most vapid and, you know, shallow guy in the game. But like, damn, I was like kind of depressed at the end there. Yeah, she makes him pies the whole game. And is so great to him, but whatever. It's because you didn't do all the justice. If that's real, then I'm sad. I'm fucking sad if that's the case. I don't know if that's real or not, if that's just japes. But it just didn't feel good. I don't know. It was like Plague Knight and Spectre Knight, I felt like I could relate to, or I could, you know, feel for a little bit after this. But King of Cards, it was like, you could still have this character be a jolly fucking bastard and have it, you could have this guy be a right cunt and still have an ending that feels a little bit less depressing than that. Just saying. Doing all the justice unlocks a secret boss. I just didn't really get a kick out of that part. That being said, I think this is, I don't know, I'd probably rank this about the same as Plague of Shadows. There's just, the justice thing is it's such a big presence in the game, and I just didn't care for it. Again, I know you don't have to do it, but that really took a little bit out of the experience for me. That being said, the platforming is amazing. Everything else is amazing. The story is like not really as engaging as the other ones either, though. And not just because of the ending. It's like throughout it, you're kind of like, okay, whatever. These people are so loud. Who hangs out in a kitchen for 2 hours at 10 p.m.? It's like, yeah, bro, let me just come over to your house at 10 p.m. and just hang out in your kitchen for like a fucking year. Who does this shit? Who does this? Who? I want names. Okay. Like, what the actual fuck, man? I really need to make this clear. What? They might be going through stuff. They're having a riot of a time out there. They're not, this is not like oh, come over, I need your support, I need a shoulder to cry on. This is like fucking giggle he. I don't even know what this is. I don't know what this is. Raccoon people. Okay. Anyway. King of Cards, very cool. Really fun. Not on the same level as Specter of Torment. Specter of Torment has got to be... I never really thought about it until I had to ascribe a score to each one, but yeah, Specter of Torment that's got to be my favorite. Shovel Knight Showdown, I don't... Oh yeah, the fighting the Troupple King, that was so cool. Yeah. Oh, and one more thing about the base Shovel Knight games is that they had like Kickstarter content done right too. Like the Hall of Backers or whatever, that was a really good way to do that. Like that wasn't a particularly good boss, the like ghost boss, but that was a cool area and great way to integrate that shit. And they kept having good ways to integrate stuff. And I think certain bosses are like Kickstarter stuff. Like fucking Baz is in this game, which if you don't know the origin of Baz, look it up. It's an interesting tale. It's like a fan character that was a deleted character from what, like Final Fight or Street Fighter or something? I don't even really remember. But it was like an old scrapped character design from some game that these like YouTubers picked up and started inserting into a bunch of games through Kickstarter backing. So that's why he's in Dive Kick and Shovel Knight, I think, among other things. I might be wrong about literally all of that, but that's what I seem to remember. And yes, on the PS4 version, you can fucking fight Kratos. I've never done that, but that's hilarious. But really well integrated stuff. I think Mr. Hat, somebody mentioned Mr. Hat. He was a Kickstarter character, right? Something like that. Maybe not. But like all the little like random bosses even are great. Just a fantastic fucking series. And can I stress this again? You can get, and I swear I was not paid. Somebody recently was like, he got paid off to promote this game or whatever when I was playing Super Galaxy Squadron EX because I just liked it so much. No, I just simply want to get the word out there. You can get all 4 of these fucking banger games for $40 and Shovel Knight Showdown. in the treasure trove on Steam. That's a fucking deal. $10 for each of these games. It could be cheaper. You could get it on sale, I'm sure. But one of the best deals in gaming. I rank that up there with like the Humble Indie Bundle 5 and the Orange Box and shit like that as just like a masterpiece for your wallet. An absolute masterpiece. There was Battletoads, yeah. And those were also console exclusive, right? Because I don't remember fighting them. And if you bought Shovel Knight at launch, you get them all for free. Yeah, which is what happened for me, I think. But fantastic. That being said, Shovel Knight Showdown is probably the one brown spot on this delightfully crisp apple of a series. It's just kind of lame. It's like they took the mechanics of Shovel Knight and tried to make it into a fighting game, and it's an admirable attempt. And I like that they tried to branch out a little bit. It just didn't really work for me. I was not enthralled by how it just felt to play, and it felt like so much of the time when you die in that game, it's just because you touched lava. Like, I forget, I should have refreshed my memory on this, but it was something about like if you get hit, you just go into a free fall. So if you get hit above lava, you just go into the lava and instantly lose all of your health. And I remember that being like the way that I killed 90% of the NPCs and the way that I always got killed too. It just felt awkward. Like they took a platforming engine and tried to sort of like grind it into fighting game mode, and it didn't really work out. I'm sure there's balance issues, like just like crazy. From what I remember, the move lists were pretty varied. Like the different characters had very wildly different play styles. So I don't know how the competitive Shovel Knight Showdown scene is, but I just didn't really get a kick out of it. It's not like it retroactively ruins anything, but it's got to be like a 4. Let's give it like a 3.5 out of 10. Just because I just didn't like it very much, and it was like, I think the plot, they didn't really go for much because it's fighting game plot, it's got to be able to be remixed for any character to be going through the campaign. So I don't think there's really much story at all. And if there is, it's just like, you're in my way. Get out of my way. We're going to fight now. Blah, 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 blah. The competitive scene is non-existent. But yeah, somebody said I bought the 3DS version at launch so I don't get to play Showdown. You're really not missing much. You're really not missing much. It's just not great. Is Shovel Knight officially in Rivals of Aether? Not just as a meme edited character? Because that's cool. I don't doubt it. He's in a bunch of shit. Shovel Knight is a whore, man. Like, Shovel Knight is a huge slut. He's in Yooka-Laylee. There's a fucking amiibo of him. There's fucking... I mean, he wasn't actually in Smash. I guess, no, he was. He was an assist trophy. He's in, like, a... like, Indie Pogo, right? He was added before workshop content. Neat. Yeah, he's in all sorts of shit. I don't really mind that much, but it is kind of funny that he kind of became... It was like they made this thing that's like a love letter to old mascot platformers and ended up just making a new mascot. It's like, neat. I would be very excited to see... I know there's also Shovel Knight, like, Dig, right? Don't really have much interest in that game. But it seems like they took what was originally a NES looking game and they SNESified it, you know. I would love to see a SNESified true Shovel Knight sequel or Shovel Knight 64. I know they've thrown that idea around. That being said, I also don't mind if these developers just go on to do more great things. Didn't they were making like some ninja game actually, right? What the fuck is Yacht Club's new thing? I forget what it's called. Yacht Club Ninja game. I remember they were showing this shit at E3. Cyber Shadow. Whatever happened to this? I have heard nothing about this. This is out? This game came out? It came out in 2020. It came out in... Wait. Oh, no. It came out in January 26, 2021. This game's out. Like, nobody talked about this, I feel like. Was it good? Weird. I don't, I should play this, man. It's Cyber Shadow. Featuring an 8-bit aesthetic, it follows a cybernetic ninja named Shadow who sets out to rescue his clan in a world overrun by machines. I remember I played a little demo of it. And at like, what did I say? E3? I meant PAX. I think I said E3. But I think it says here, it was first shown at PAX East 2019. Oh, it wasn't PAX East. I don't know. That looks neat. Maybe I should check it out. It's really good. I've heard good things about it. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I might have to check that out at some point. I kind of forgot that existed until this very moment where I was like, what are these devs working on now? I hope they're like doing okay. I don't know. I think Shovel Knight was an incredibly bankable game for them. So like shut the fuck up. People are being so fucking loud. It's 11:30 at night, man. Go to your fucking room to do this shit. Like, whatever. I hope they do well. I hope we see more cool stuff from the Shovel Knight people, because it's a fucking amazing game. They just launched a new Shovel Knight puzzle game thing. I didn't hear about that. You're not talking about Shovel Knight Dig, right? That's a different thing. Hold on. I'm sorry. This is a dumb... This is going to make it so... We're going to have to sign off pretty soon here. Oh, Yacht Club Games. Fuck you. Not an actual yacht club. Sorry, I'm not a rich fucking boomer. Dum, 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 dum. Is that Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon? Dungeon crawler / puzzle. Weird. And Shovel Knight Dig isn't even out yet? It says 2022 here as the release date. Huh. Is that not even out? Co-developed with Nitrome. I forgot about that. Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon. Co-developed with Vine. Sorry, what the fuck do you mean co-developed with Vine? Not like Vine, like the fucking the video company, the like app. Surely there's a different development team just called Vine. Well, whatever. I didn't know about this Pocket Dungeon. It's a falling tile versus game. Interesting. Okay. It got delayed recently. Huh. I do hope that they're not like, they don't feel like they're just shackled to Shovel Knight for their whole fucking careers, you know? That would be the worst case scenario. Anyway, worst case scenario is they just don't make any more games ever, I guess. I guess, you know, no. Let's think Simpsons here. Let's think Simpsons. No, the worst case scenario is they just keep making Shovel Knight over and over again until it just gets bad. That's the real worst case scenario. You live long enough to see yourself become a villain. Anyway. Arm Joe. This is a hell of a game. Yes, this is the Les Miserables fighting game. Is a 2D sprite-based fighting game where you can play as all your favorites from the award-winning musical. This is another great B game, but it's a lot higher quality than something like Normality or Sexy Hiking, where it's just befuddling that it exists. Like, it boggles the mind that somebody decided, like, yeah, the world needs a 2D Street Fighter style one-on-one fighter themed after Les Mis that just needs to exist. And it's got plenty of personality, some really creative supers. It's a little tricky to get running, because it's kind of like a jank. I think it uses this engine that's like a create a fighting game engine type thing. I don't remember exactly what it is. It's not like Mugen or anything. But there's like a framework that this game and Dong Dong Never Die both follow that is... I don't know. It seems kind of jank, and especially trying to get these run when you are not a Japanese speaker is also a challenge, because all the readmes and all the move lists are all in Japanese. So it can be a little tricky that way for us English folk. And I remember this one, we were having controller issues, and like we couldn't select any stages besides the one stage that was like a grassy field with a horse in the background. Or no, that was... Maybe I'm thinking of something different. No, it was like... There was a different stage. The horse stage was in Dong Dong, but Armjo had a different stage that we only... that we were only ever able to select one stage, and then we saw more of the stages in the story mode. Yeah, the military cemetery. Yeah, that's what it was. Dong Dong might be Chinese. I don't remember really. I think it is actually. That checks out. I think I remember seeing like the poster had like Chinese on it. But Armjo, very cool. I'm not a pro fighting game player at all, so I can't rank this as an actual fighting game. I don't know if it has interesting links or interesting mechanics or anything. It seemed pretty basic from what I played of it. But the animation is actually pretty good, and it's creative. There were some very cool super moves that were funny and interesting, and it has good game feel, weirdly. I don't know, nothing but respect for Armjo, apparently. I would probably rank this about a 7.5. It was fun to mess around with, but it's not something I would return to over and over again, you know? Mind-boggling. I'll say it again for its novelty, though. It just... like, what a concept, and pretty well executed. I would recommend this. Maybe if you're like super into fighting games, it would be fun to like check out, and maybe it's got a bunch of like broken ass shit, you know? Anyway, Circuit Infinity. This is a game that not a lot of people watch the streams of, and I was kind of sad about that because it's a cool game. Really cool game, actually. I'm just going to go ahead and say straight away that I do recommend this. If you've never seen this game, I would advise looking up like a trailer or a gameplay demo or something like that, because it's really hard to describe. Really hard to describe. Very trippy arcade style gameplay. It's like we haven't reviewed this game yet, but I don't know if any of you remember Maddening Relapse. It's like a radial game. The game like ripples outwards or contracts into a point in the center of the screen. It's so hard to describe, but it's a fun, I guess I would call it a platformer technically. You don't jump, I guess, but you're running around this circle, and you kind of have to like, you have like this dodge move, and you have to avoid all these enemies. It's very surreal. It's very striking. It's got really cool music. It's very challenging, and I gave up. You may note it says I gave up on this game. And that was because it just got too like complicated for Monkey Brain. It was like they kept adding on these new gameplay concepts that at a certain point it just felt kind of overwhelming. And I don't think it was like I got super stuck. It was just like at a certain point I was like, I'm gonna get super stuck, and I'm just gonna leave this game with good memories of it rather than sitting here and getting frustrated. I think that's like roughly the logic that I had for like not continuing with it. But it's got a very cool vibe. I very much enjoy the like, all the enemies are crying and laughing. There's a lot of like emotion themed shit. It's got a very vague, like it feels like it's sort of vaguely about like relationships and maybe a little bit about sex, kinda. There's a little bit of like an intimacy vibe to it, but or like relationships. I don't know. It's very vague though, and I don't know if when you beat the game it makes it all clear what the fuck was going on. But it was neat. It's a neat vibe, fun, satisfying to get through a level, but again, at a certain point it just became too much for my monkey brain, and I felt uninclined to proceed. Gosh, I'd give this game an 8. Though it's really solid. Like I really respect this game, even though I didn't finish it. And I don't know if the devs, what else have they done, I wonder. Probably, I would assume probably not anything I've heard of. Circa Infinity. I never even really like checked. By Kenny Sun. Keeney. I just searched Keeney Sun. Okay, I don't know. They've ostensibly released other games. Tender, Creature Comforts. A narrative game that explores connection and rejection in the era of swipe culture. So maybe this guy is about those relationships. Okay, whatever. Circa Infinity was very cool, though. Neat style, striking, and really makes you think. In both gameplay and what the fuck am I looking at? Okay. And it's like there's like constructed levels, and then there's also an arcade mode that's really fun. And a really like fleshed out arcade mode too. Guys, I do regret to say I'm going to not review Psychonauts tonight. We'll start off with that next time. I am so fucking bothered by the fact that these people are right outside my cunting room just talking so loud. The instant I started, I thought like, and like, riddle me this. When is a safe time to start, if not 10 p.m.? Like, I have nothing. I'm a man who's been stripped down to nothing. Anyway, Psychonauts will be the big draw for next time. But FNAF, let's talk about this real quick. I actually, weirdly enough, despite absolutely everything about it, I have a certain amount of respect for FNAF 1 and 2. I think they've got a neat vibe. I think the whole, like, you know, nostalgic horror aesthetic was neat at the time, and now is pretty fucking played out. Everybody's gushing themselves about liminal spaces these days. But I do I do like the feel and like the atmosphere of these first two. And the third game I've also played a little bit of, and I've not played any of the other ones. I remember thinking with the third one, like, oh god, this is dumb. They jumped the shark. Actually, I don't know if I ever played it now that I'm thinking of it, because I don't own it on Steam. Because otherwise I would have just streamed it. I might have just watched someone else play it. I remember I've never seen basically any Markiplier stuff, except I watched his FNAF series like over and over again just to like learn about the games, basically, because I thought they were interesting at the time. Yes. The jump scares ruin it. The jump scares are bad. They're terrible. They basically ruin the game. I wouldn't say they exactly ruin the game, but they're not they certainly are not a beloved aspect of it, at least not in my mind. It's glaring obvious evidence that Scott Cawthon accidentally created this. Like, I know there's the whole famous story about like the old, like he showed one of his old games to like some producers, and they were like, these things look like creepy animatronics, and then he was like, ooh, I got an idea. But like, it's still clear that despite all the cool ideas, like the guy doesn't really have a grasp of like how to make something good, but whatever. It just kind of happened. And it's got very unique gameplay. It's almost a tower defense game, strangely enough. It kind of is a tower defense game. But I appreciate that it has, it's almost like a piece of outsider art, you know? This like weird mobile game developer made this horror game, and partially because his resources were so limited, it ended up being this really sort of avant-garde weird thing. And I'm gonna say it, I like the way the story is told, where you get little snippets of it time after time from the phone guy or whatever, and then you sort of like piece it together from the environment, seeing like all the little like kids drawings on the walls and shit like that, and you can sort of make your own inferences. But I think, and I'm kind of just ranking both of these together, like I think these are both going to get the exact same score, and God knows, I have no idea if I recommend these, because again, you've already played it if you're a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, and if you haven't, you're probably never going to. But I do think there are respectable things about them. Like, they've got a cool atmosphere. It's a good example of like working within constrictions to make something that ends up being good, not even despite those constrictions, but sort of because of them. You know, it's like all this guy can make is like these pre-rendered flat images, and still kind of made it work in a way, which is admirable. Hold on, my music stopped and I can't fucking listen to these people jabber on and on and on and on and on. Okay, I know I'm sitting here reviewing games for 2 hours, but like, I've never just hung out and talked with someone. Like, it's like, if I go over to somebody's house, I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do? Like, we need to like do something. Like, we're not just gonna sit here and chat. But apparently I'm weird on this. Apparently, I think I'm the weirdo here, because I think some people just go, yeah, it's 10 p.m. Come on over to my dining room and we'll just fucking have a chat. Whatever. FNAF though is, it's kind of fun to talk about. Like, this is a really deep cut that literally nobody will get the callback to, but ages and ages and ages ago, before I made Smash montages or anything, on what is now the Fruit Salad channel, I posted these videos where I recorded myself in my car driving around idly just to random locales. It was just an audio recording. I recorded myself driving around and talking about games. And one of them I did it for was Five Nights at Freddy's, and one of them was Life is Strange. They were just games I had played recently. And they were like games that I had mixed feelings about, where I felt like there was good and bad aspects to both of them. And I just sort of like rambled on about them. I guess this is kind of what that ended up becoming, you know? But yeah, I think these games are neat, and I think these two in particular mark like before the series just completely jumped the shark and was just became terrible fucking garbage horror schlock that is just completely meaningless. And it's like, yeah, there's not a lot of aspirations to higher thought in these games either, but I think it's a story interestingly delivered, and their unique qualities make them enough to enough to be worth talking about and not just be like meme games, you know? I could not give less of a shit about the new ones, though. I do still have the videos. I could probably post them, but I kind of don't feel like doing it because they'd probably be really cringe. I don't know. They're not still uploaded. That's for sure. I deleted them at a certain point. But yeah, there was a FNAF one, and there was a Life is Strange like episode 1 one. I'm trying to think. I don't know. There's not really much else to talk about. The jump scares really are terrible, though. I do like it. There is something to be said for like the sense of tension that it gives you, where it's like, you know, I think it's not a completely cheap thing, is like being afraid of being jump scared, because really in the end, even creeping like eerie fear or tension in a movie is kind of, in a sense, it's like, you know, when's it all gonna fall apart? When is Jack Nicholson gonna fucking snap in The Shining? You know, like that's an expertly done horror film that is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum to Five Nights at Freddy's, but it's like, you could say even in things that people don't consider to be jump scary horror, that it's like the fear is still based around like, I don't know, like suddenness or aggression. I don't know why I'm trying to defend the jump scares, but I just think they don't completely, like, what I've heard from some people is like, oh, it just completely ruined it. You know, the first time I saw a jump scare, then I know that's as bad as it gets and I'll never be scared by it again. I don't really think that's the case for me personally. I don't know, they keep you on edge, like, at least for me. That being said, there was this very interesting phenomenon with Five Nights at Freddy's where I remember like watching those fucking Markiplier videos, and there's always that trope of like people posting timestamps for the jump scares in the comments, and it's like the jump scares I remember would legitimately scare me and like you know, make me jump as they're supposed to when I first saw them, but after watching it a few times, it was like I became completely immune to it. And I don't know. Somebody said it's good that they're a failure condition and not just something that happens. I think that's kind of what I was trying to say. Is like, it's like your punishment for fucking up. And that's why, like, you know, when the power runs out, they have that shit where like Freddy's face is illuminated by a little bit of light and it plays that little song for a random period of time. It's like just toying with you at that point. And any game can do that. That's not to say that it's like an exceptional fucking thing that they did, but I think it's better than it could have been, I guess. I don't know. I hate jump scares because they make me jump despite me not being really scared by them. Well, surely nobody's ever even slightly actually scared of something that's in a video game, because video games are not real life, right? That's just me, at least. I've been stalling, though. I don't know what fucking number to give FNAF 1 and 2. It's like, I'm thinking like 7. No, let's say, because it's also, here's another thing. They're also incredibly hard for like no reason. This is something that I actually don't like about them at all. Is why did they need to be CBT? You know? Like, does anybody know why these games are fucking CBT? Or at least I never beat one of them, because they get to the point where you have to be so attentive and so godlike at the game, and you have to like I remember watching Markiplier do the like 2020 challenge or whatever, where it's like all the CPUs on the highest difficulty, and even just beating the game too. There's always like a secret night too. I don't think any of the games actually have just 5 nights, but it seems like Scott Cawthon went way too hard on the difficulty, to the point where it's like, if you look at those videos, I know half of this is just a review of the fucking Markiplier playthrough of this. I hate this. If you look at Markiplier at like the end of some of those harder nights, he's not engaged at all. Like I don't know, he's engaged, but only with like frenetically swapping back and forth between the cameras. It like loses all the good things about it when you're just focused on mechanically excelling at the game rather than, I don't know. And it's like, once you start to study the mechanics of FNAF, it sort of starts to fall apart, and like the mystique is gone, and then you're just sort of playing kind of a lame, unconventional game rather than sitting there being scared. But whatever. I remember there was a whole thing, this is from chat, where his kid beat one of the later nights first try, so he thought it was balanced when it was not at all. That's nuts. But yeah, I don't know. The fact that they're so difficult is pretty detracting. Like, it's part of the reason why I would not ever play one of these games through to completion, you know? But I do think they're kind of interesting just as an object in the world, you know? Okay. So with that being said, I don't know, like a 6.5. I'm like doing a little dance in real life because I really don't know how to rank these. Take this number with a grain of salt. I know this is the same ranking I gave fucking Ocarina of Time, but it's just true. Both Ocarina of Time and Five Nights at Freddy's have a lot to like and a lot to dislike, and that's why they're sort of neat to talk about. I almost just want to type here the full sentence. If you've played them, you've already played them if you're gonna play them. Like, there's nobody here who's gonna be like, oh, I might check out FNAF after him saying, oh yeah, sure. But like, I guess I wouldn't actually recommend playing them because you're not gonna beat them, most likely, just because they're not very fun to like grind through those later difficult parts. So I don't think I would recommend them. But they're neat. They're not just complete trash that's not worth talking about. And I think that's something that a lot of people just kind of like skip over it and just go, oh, FNAF, Lamau, jump scare, lol, funny. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Same bestie. But at the same time, there's a little more to it, and I do admire certain things about it. You know what? Yeah, let's talk about fucking Psychonauts. I'm sorry, I know some people signed off, but let's just keep going for a little bit longer. Let's not end it on FNAF. Psychonauts and Psychonauts 2 are some of the best games ever fucking made. Both of these definitely get a recommend. Neither of them are perfect, I would say. Psychonauts has shown its age. It just looks, especially like the characters look a little old. I guess let's start from the beginning. To those of you who don't know, Psychonauts is ridiculously based. It's a platformer series where you play as a psychonaut who goes into people's brains and solves their like mental issues for them, or like helps them get over their inner demons. And it's basically a concept done really, really, really well. It's made by Double Fine, who some of you may know, I was gonna say, for making Psychonauts. Broken Age, I guess, was one of theirs. They don't really have like a lot of popular hits, so it's not like I can really compare them to much. But like Grim Fandango, I guess, is an early one. Tim Schafer was the creative mind behind Monkey Island as well, if any of you have played Monkey Island. But it's got that like old adventure game energy, and even certain parts of it are they have adventure game elements. Like Psychonauts 1 has the like inventory where you hold items, which honestly feels like a clunky ass system that I'm not a huge fan of. It just kind of feels like it was shoved into there because Tim Schafer had to have his fucking point and click adventure elements. That being said, the games, I don't want to start off with just criticism after lavishing Five Nights at Freddy's with praise. It's fucking amazing. The writing is great. The characters are deep. Like, they actually have character to them, and like, I don't know, each character stands out as like an actual unique personality, which is not something that usually happens in a lot of these sort of like mascot platformer type games. The world design is just amazing. That's one part that is not aged very much at all. Is the levels just look fucking amazing. I love all the trippy ass, weird ass transitions they do. Like there's one part in Mia's brain where like it's like you're inside a room, you like walk into this room that's like entirely checkered, and then it kind of like flutters a little bit, and then it turns into a flag, and then that's the flag that like starts the race segment or whatever. There's lots of really cool shit like that. So imaginative and creative and fun. Like the games are actually fun. Psychonauts 2 definitely improved on all the like actual mechanics, like all the telekinetic abilities. Psychonauts 1, it was just kind of like you have these abilities, but you're not itching to use them at any point because they're not terribly fun to use. Like pyrokinesis and telekinesis in particular are just like only use I in Psychonauts 1 I only found myself using them when I absolutely had to, and then Psychonauts 2 they just souped up all the mechanics and made everything actually fun, where the telekinesis and the especially the pyrokinesis, the way they made it that little bubble instead, that was just a perfect fix to it. I think in Psychonauts 1 I know you had to hold the button to like charge and make something catch on fire, but didn't you have to like stand perfectly fucking still too, or some shit like that? It's just kind of clunky. There's a few things that are kind of clunky about the first game, but they cleaned those up in the second game. I wouldn't want to like spoil all the cool shit that happens in Psychonauts, but there's just so many great, like if you've played it before, you know the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, with just really creative, weird, incredibly varied worlds that all have their own like unique feel. And it's like they're not just there to be there, they actually serve like a function in the narrative. Like with the characters whose brains you're entering, they're actually developing. They actually have something to do with the plot of the game. It's not just like faffing around. The platforming is fun. It's kind of just like it's perfectly serviceable. It's like almost Mario levels of polish, where it's like fucking phenomenal, but like not quite there. There's a few jank things that you can do in Psychonauts 1 that are really fun to any of you out there that enjoy like speedrunning, like slick tricks. There's a really cool thing you can do where you ground pound angled surfaces on the ground and you'll just go flying off at like some crazy angle. You can do the infinite float glitch, which is just endless fun for searching for jank. Do you need to play Psychonauts 1 before Psychonauts 2? I would suggest it, but know that Psychonauts 1 is a little clunky in the gameplay department with some of the psychic abilities, and that's really it though. Like there's not a lot. It is pretty polished for a game of its time and of its like development team and scope and shit. But They do give a recap at the beginning of Psychonauts 2. Like, it's not completely imperative, but there's definitely some stuff that you're not going to get the same like impact out of if you haven't played the first game. But let's see, what's another, what have I forgotten to talk about? Oh, one of the coolest game mechanics I've ever seen in my fucking life is clairvoyance in Psychonauts 1 and 2. I was so happy they brought this back for 2, where you can go into somebody's brain and look at how they perceive you. And the way that they perceive you is always this cute little drawing that shows, it's meant to illustrate how everybody sees the world differently, you know? So it's like the guy that trains your main character, Raz, he sees you as like a younger version of him because he sees a lot of himself in you and stuff like that. And there's like funny ones too, like the teleportation monster, Oatmeal, sees you as a package simply to be delivered, you know? And such a great mechanic. And it's like, it's similar to the dream nail in Hollow Knight. I think that's a mechanic that I would compare it to, where it's like every NPC just has that much more detail to them that you can look at the world through their eyes. And it's not like, you know, you get complete pyro vision for every character. It's just, it's a neat touch and it's a really good detail. And there's a lot of really fucking funny jokes, like when you clairvoyance the critic in the theater level. I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but that's definitely one to do. There's just some fucking hilarious ones. I am still not sick of Dan's theme from Street Fighter V, by the way. I've been listening to this for 2 hours at this point. But yes, Psychonauts, fantastic. Full of personality. Super fun, just on a basic level, and interesting. Like the game world is just so absorbing and detailed and beautiful. The character designs are kind of uggo. It's got this sort of like Saturday morning cartoon, early 90s, like weirdo style. It's got a healthy dose of like Tim Burton-esque influence in there too. But if you can push past how horrifically ugly the main character is, I'm sure you'll find lots to love. Really just not... I can't say enough good stuff about Psychonauts. And then Psychonauts 2... Hold on, let's try to definitively... Let's put down a number for Psychonauts 1. I would give it a 9.5. It's definitely not a perfect 10 because... there are just a few things that are kind of annoying about it. Like, I remember 100%ing both of these games is kind of bad. Psychonauts 1 in particular, because the figments can be so hard to see sometimes, and there's such dickish figments standing around in some places. Like, there's that fucking figment in the Napoleon world that's like a fairy just sitting in the middle of these woods that you would have no reason to go to otherwise, or something like that. And there was one that was in a plume of smoke that was really hard to see, and there was one on the 100%ing the racetrack segment in Mia's level was just dreadful. I remember somebody came into the stream while I was doing that on Mia's level, and they were like, "Wow, this game, I've heard about this game, it doesn't look very good," and I was like, "No!" Like, they're not gonna like Psychonauts because they tuned in for the shittiest part. But it is good. There's a bit of flab, and there's a little bit of frustration with the controls. I remember rail grinding was the one thing that was just a little jank, and that was something else that they really cleaned up for Psychonauts 2 as well. The one just sitting outside the map in Milkman Conspiracy, I don't really remember that, but yeah, there's some dumb figments. I did not play it as a kid. I played it, I don't know. My on-stream playthrough was not my first. I remember I had played almost all of the game. I had not done the final level though. I actually, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, you know, I never beat the final level." I never even got to the final level in my first playthrough. I got stuck on like that one boss right before the final level. That being said, the final level is a little stanky too. That's like part of why it's not a perfect 10. And it's really like, that's really like the only part that's kind of stanky though. I don't know. There's like some other, I guess like that one like lungfish fight is a little poopy. And then there's like the timed escort mission in the final world. That's just like, bruh, I hate this. that was the standout bad part. Every other part of that world was fine, I think. But anyway, that's Psychonauts 1. It's really good. Definitely recommend. Super underrated. Like, I just don't hear people talk about it very much. Whenever people do talk about it, they're gushing about it usually, but really, really great. If you love Banjo-Kazooie and like other collectathon style games, like this is a great game for you, because it's like Banjo-Kazooie, except it has aspirations to higher thought, unlike Banjo and Kazooie. And I'm not trying to say Banjo-Kazooie's bad, but it's just Psychonauts is fucking epic. That's all I'm trying to say. And the soundtrack is fucking amazing, even in the final level. I forget the name of the guy who does the soundtrack, but they did a phenomenal job on both of these games. Thank you for reminding me to talk about the soundtracks, because so good. They've got that classic, like, sort of, I think it's the same guy who does the soundtracks for a lot of Double Fine games. Like, he did the soundtrack for Grim Fandango as well. And it's got like real instruments and shit. Like, that's, I love that in a soundtrack for one thing. But like, it's the kind of music, it crosses the Super Mario World barrier of like music. Psychonauts is actually like video game music that I would download and listen to on my own in my spare time, not just while playing the game, you know? I really, in particular, enjoy all the like the cozy camp themes in both games. There's like a daytime camp theme, a nighttime camp theme, and actually, I think, are those the only two ones in the first game? There might be another one as well. But all and oh man, and like Psychonauts takes place at like a psychic summer camp, and as a guy who grew up going through Boy Scouts in the Pacific Northwest, it's both of these games just scream Pacific Northwest energy, and that is particularly really cozy for me. There's just something very comforting and homey about both of them, you know? Anyway, moving on to Psychonauts 2. I've kind of been talking about both of them because they're very similar. It's just, you know, one's the second game. There's also the Rhombus of Ruin. There's that whole issue. Psychonauts ends with like kind of a cliffhanger, and then there's like years and years and years later, they made Rhombus of Ruin, which is like a VR game that connects the two games. I've never played Rhombus of Ruin. I may play it at some point, as it says here, but never found it to be that important to play. I don't know if it's like, I've heard it's just basically fine, but it is it's a weird way to connect the two games. That being said, you can pick up Psychonauts 2 after playing Psychonauts 1, of course, and they'll fill you in on everything that happened in the Rhombus of Ruin, which is not a whole lot. But the games are very closely connected, which is weird because, of course, they came out about a decade apart, right? Something like that. Took me a while to get through that sentence. But Psychonauts 2 basically takes everything that was good about the first game and just does more of it. It's not like they like they revolutionized it or anything. It's just, it was already really good, and they just took this concept and just made more of it. And it's like, as long as it's from the same creative minds, like, it seems like they did really well. They did not drop the ball. That being said, there were a couple things that I noted that were a bit weaker compared to Psychonauts 1. One thing is the bosses. Mechanically, the bosses are a lot more fun to fight in Psychonauts 2, and they're very cool. There's a lot of like spectacle, but I felt they were a little too literal sometimes, where like, I don't know how to describe this. It's like the boss fights in Psychonauts 2 would always just be like a direct representation of a specific person in this person's life, you know, whether it's a dark reflection of themselves or it's like their peers or whatever. There were two different worlds where the final boss was the character whose mind you're in. It's like three of their friends, but they're all like demonic, like monster forms. I don't know. Something about that felt like a little too on the nose, whereas in like Psychonauts 1, it was like there would be big villains in each world, but they were all kind of symbolic of something larger, where it's like, you know, there's like Napoleon and like the critic and shit like that. And like let's talk about like, I guess let's go a specific example, like the theater level. There's this, I forget what the girl's name is actually, like Soleil Bonita or whatever. It's like she had an issue with like a really demanding teacher at one point, but it's not like, it's like the Psychonauts 2 version of that would be you just fight a big demonic version of the teacher, instead of like there's just this critic character that sort of represents all of this character's like self-hatred and self-judgment, you know. I kind of liked that approach better than Psychonauts 2, where it's like, I'm your friend, I don't like you, rah, you know? And I'm not trying to say that like they were just super basic and terrible in Psychonauts 2, but that was one thing that I felt was slightly weaker. I'm probably honestly going to give Psychonauts 2 also a 9.5. I know that's like not, I know that's probably not surprising or interesting to anyone, but I never guaranteed this would be surprising or interesting. I'm just going to type that right now, actually. That being said, the worlds, the characters, it's all there in Psychonauts 2. And the plot is always like, it has just enough twists and turns to keep you interested, too. And especially, Psychonauts 2 has a little more in terms of twists and turns as well. Turns and twists that I genuinely did not see coming. There were a couple that I jokingly, open quotes, called, but they were interesting stuff. I like how they constructed the narrative. I think at the Game Awards at one point I was like, oh, they shouldn't win Best Narrative. That's like not what the game did best. But in retrospect, like it was a pretty good narrative. Like it was well constructed and just complex enough that like I was interested and intrigued without just being like, I don't give a shit about what's happening because I'm just confused, you know? The one slightly confusing thing was I thought that Lily's dad was Raz's dad because they're both just like Double Fine characters with big beards. But whatever. I figured that out pretty fast. But yeah, Psychonauts 2, what are some other things? The advancements in graphical fidelity in the previous fucking decade made it so they could just do so much more shit, and it's really obvious that they were able to increase the scope of some of these worlds. And it's not like they completely just like were overindulgent and just jumped the fucking shark, but at the same time they went far with some of these ideas and some of these world concepts in a way that I really, really liked. And it's just, everything looks great. I won't like spoil what specific level themes there are because I think that's some of the joy of playing the game, but it's like I can't think of a world that I didn't like, you know? Like all of them were cool in their own way. I guess like Compton's level was kind of lame a little bit, but they all had something cool and unique to them. It's clear that despite like Double Fine does not always deliver the absolute banger hits, but it's like for whatever reason this specific series it just works. Like they just have a good feel for creating these really vibrant, interesting, varied, like diverse worlds, you know? There is a gay couple in Psychonauts 2, and it was well handled because they literally just exist. And it's not like, it doesn't feel like this ridiculously forced, like cringy, look at us, we're so progressive shit. They literally just put gay characters into it, like fucking massive chads, which was pretty admirable. I remember thinking like, wow, that was more naturally integrated than I've ever seen it in any other video game in my entire fucking life. Like they would have, any other game company would have paraded around the fact they've got gay characters so much, and it would have been such a, oh, it's such a big thing, The Last of Us, oh. Whereas in Psychonauts 2, it's like, damn, they just damn ass have gay characters, and that's pretty legendary. Of course, that's not going to affect my score for the game, but I felt like bringing that up. Probably wrapping up here. What else is there? Like, it can't be stressed enough how much they fleshed out like the fucking psychic powers in Psychonauts 2 and just made them like usable, and the combat became so much more fun, because it's like, as much fun as Psychonauts 1 is, a lot of the enemies, the standard enemies, are just the little sensor guys, or the little like bomb dudes. I forget what they're even fucking called, like anger management. They're like panic attacks, I think is what they're called. No, that's one of the bosses in Psychonauts 2. Whatever. Cool shit. Oh, I felt like, speaking of the panic attacks, actually, it felt like, you remember that cut plot line from the first game with like the weird trauma demons? It feels like the panic attack was them finally actually making good on that concept, which is kind of neat. It's neat to see that sort of stuff come back up. Psychonauts 2, I think, was made, like, a lot of the stuff in it was originally cut content from Psychonauts 1 as well. Like, you were, in the first game, you were originally meant to go to Psychonauts HQ at a certain point, and there's, like, concept art of that Psychonauts HQ building from the Psychonauts 1 era, which is pretty interesting. But anyway, yeah, Inner Demons, is that what it is? Okay. The little... I remember the sound they make. But the gameplay is a lot better. The animation is pretty fucking fantastic too. Like in the first game, the animation can feel a little like puppet-esque and stilted at times. But in the second game, it's like, damn, they really put the effort in. And there's a lot of unique cutscenes too, where, you know, there's all this like lip syncing shit they had to do, and they just simply did it, and it's well animated. It just looks good. The kid characters are not usually my favorite part of Psychonauts, like the campers and then the group of interns in Psychonauts 2. They always kind of feel like, I don't know, like Double Fine is going, ta-da, look at all these characters we made. And I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, if we're not going into their brains, I don't really fucking care, honestly. And like the awkward child romance subplot with Raz and Lily just feels really cliched and kind of like, I don't give a shit at all about this. But and the thing that made me think about this is Psychonauts 2, near the very beginning, they kind of like force you to interact with the interns a lot, and they force you to like have a lot of these cutscene conversations and shit. And I remember thinking like, I hope the whole game isn't this cutscene laden and like keeps stopping me, because that was one thing that really kind of annoyed me. And thankfully, yes, it is just the first part of the game that has all those just kind of relentless cutscenes, but it's just kind of like tutorial-itis, I guess. Another thing, 100%ing Psychonauts 2 had its own issues. It was less of a pain in the ass, but it had this weird thing where some of the worlds, they like chopped them up for like, I think literally no reason. I do not know why they did this. There would be like a cool, like a part of a level where it has like a cool transition where you like go through a portal and go to the next part of the level. And for some reason, they just cut those off and made it so you have to teleport between them. And it felt like clunky, awful design. And I was like, why did they do this? And it almost felt like they started to chop and it was like only after you come back to the level, after beating it the first time, you come back to it and it's all like chopped up. And I think they actually literally did it for like a couple of levels and then decided, this is just my own headcanon. This is no basis in reality. This is how it felt. It felt like they did that for a couple levels, and then were like, this is fucking stupid, let's not do this for other levels. Because, like, Bob's level, by all means, by all rights, should have been just as chopped up as, like, Hollis's level, you know? But Hollis's level got totally, like, diced, and Bob's level got, like, untouched. It was totally seamless still after coming back to it. So I feel like that was kind of like a scrapped concept, and it felt really misguided and weird. It's a tiny thing, but it was just strange. But otherwise, yes, both of these are massively satisfying, creative, fun titles. Like, I just can't recommend them enough. Yeah, I don't know. I guess in the second one, I'm like, what else is there to talk about? In the second one, they gave you more tools to, like, know what parts of what areas you've 100%ed, you know? I guess they had that in Psychonauts 1 as well, to a certain degree, in, like, that little hub world when you use the brain tumbler. Whatever. I'm probably rambling, but it's just because I want to talk about these games forever. I guess if you really want my full opinion, you can, of course, watch my Let's Plays on them, but they are both fantastic. A standout in the fucking medium, like, truly. Should we just get right up to Half-Life? Like, I'm so close. I really have to use the bathroom. But I feel like let's just keep going for a little while longer. I know I said this would only be 2 hours. Let's move on. BioShock, I feel like I can do pretty fast. BioShock was a series of... I've never played any other BioShock games. I want to make that perfectly clear. I've never played System Shock, which this is like a spiritual successor to. A lot of aspects of it really grabbed me. A lot of aspects of it really didn't. Mainly the gameplay. I just did not really vibe with the gameplay that much. But everything else, like the world design, the sound design, so good. So fucking good. Like I just love the atmosphere and the feeling of being in Rapture. It's a very neat concept of an underwater utopia, you know, and I've been talking about higher thought a lot. This is definitely a game that has aspirations to actually trying to say something. That being said, its whole fucking like Ayn Rand thing is very cool. I kind of feel like the game loses track of that by the end with like the final boss, and then the whole morality tree thing where you can be a good guy or a bad guy, and the end cutscene changes from "you are the best guy ever, you led us into a new future of fucking prosperity," or "you are the worst guy ever, you are Hitler too, you created the Holocaust," and there's like no in between. That just felt really clunky and weird, and it felt like the game kind of petered out after you encountered Andrew Ryan. I don't know. But very cool, good voice acting, very creative, and striking visuals. I remember there was lots of good uses of like light and shadows and very stark things. It's like, you know, Rapture is Art Deco designed, but it's also the video game itself kind of has a stark, old-timey aesthetic to it as well. And of course, everybody likes a nice post-apocalyptic, a nice like post-disaster world, you know. The soundtrack is neat, where they've got all these old-timey tunes. I don't know, was it like Fallout New Vegas where they actually licensed a bunch of old songs? I think they did, right? And the game, it looks and sounds fucking great. I just simply didn't enjoy actually playing it. I'm not very experienced in first-person shooters, so I might just suck or something. I don't know, maybe I just suck. But it's kind of like Resident Evil, right? Where you're like scrounging together resources and you need to manage stuff, and you got like upgrades and shit, I guess, with the plasmids. The plasmids are cool. That's the coolest part of it. I almost wish there just weren't guns in the game. And it was just about like shooting lightning and fucking bees from your hands. That shit's cool. But just going through the levels and killing the bad guys, I don't know, it felt like a lot of times they were just spawning more and more fucking little, like, dudes to come out and be like, ah, I'm crazy, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It was a mixed bag. It was like everything but actually playing the game I adore. The game itself, a little bit of a rip moment, especially that last part where you have to, like, scrounge together. It's like a fetch quest where you have to, like, scrounge together the parts to make a fake Big Daddy costume, and then you play with, like, that weird distortion effect on the screen once you put the big, like, fishbowl on your head. That part was weird. And navigating, again, I might just be dumb, but I felt like the maps were always confusing, and it was, like, a little too difficult to navigate the world, or more difficult than it needed to be, I guess. Let's just, I don't know, we've been doing a lot of 7s today, right? There's been a ton of fucking 7s. But I'm really feeling some 7 energy here, like 7.5 for me. It was cool, but it wasn't something that, like, fucking revolutionized my gaming experience, I guess. I don't know. And then Reveal the Deep. Let's end this off with a nice stinker. It's not even really that. This is a truly bad game, but it's not, like, obnoxiously bad. It's just, like, boring bad. This is an indie game. Actually, it's funny that we're playing this right after BioShock, because you play as, like, a diver in this game. But it's, like, what a lot of people would call indie pixel shit, which is not a term I use very much, but it was supposed to, it's like this tense, atmospheric horror game where there's no horror, and it's not tense, and it's not atmospheric. You know, or the premise is like you're a scuba diver and you're walking through, I think it's the wreckage of a big ship or something like that, and you have to piece together, you, like, pick up these notes that people left around, and you read the dialogue, the exposition, and then at the end nothing happens. I remember it was like, I don't know, maybe this is just putting words in the game designer's mouth, but I felt like if you're doing an underwater game, an underwater horror game, have spooky shit happen that has something to do with it being underwater, but that never happened. It was basically just a really slow, clunky platformer because you got water physics all the time, you know? And, like, I remember there was one segment where there's, like, these little shadow monsters, and it felt like a fucking Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga bit where they're all walking in, like, single file, and I needed to, like, walk among them without touching them or something like that, and if I touched them, I got sent back to the beginning of that segment. That was, like, the only gameplay in the entire game, besides some very simple puzzles, and I was like, this is not tense or scary. This is just kind of annoying and fiddly and dumb and weird and bad. And, like, I don't want to rail on this game that's, you know, almost certainly made by one guy. I'm sure it's not like it was meant to be a magnum opus or anything. It might have just been like, oh, they're just getting their bearings making games. I don't even know. I don't know the story behind it or anything, but I don't wish to be cruel, but I really got basically nothing from this game. It was like, it wasn't, like, incompetent, like, it functioned, but there was just almost nothing to it. And I remember, like, at the end, there was this fucking thing where it was like, you need to arrange these 4 totems in this specific order, and it's like they were totems we had seen previously in the game, and I was like, but I didn't know this was a puzzle, so I didn't write down what the different totems were that we saw, so now we have to go back and just trudge through this absolute nothing game and go find these totems and figure out the order, and I was like, I'm just gonna fucking Google it. Like, I just don't care. And it was like, there was just never anything, like, spooky. Maybe every once in a while they would have a sound of, like, something big outside or something, but, like, never saw anything big, never felt fucking scared in the slightest, not even a little bit in, like, a horror game sense where you're like, oh, I'm so, open quotes, scared, you know? It just wasn't very good. So no, I would not recommend this game. This is one of the games that I have, one of the few games that I have 100%ed the all the achievements on Steam, because it's one of those games that just has achievements for like, you got this percentage of the way through the story, you got this percentage of the way, or you reached this story landmark or whatever. Yeah, it just feels like they did nothing interesting with the concept, and it could have been so much cooler, and there could have been interesting shit, but they just kind of like didn't do it. So rip. Unfortunate. If this game was a food, it would be mashed potatoes without gravy too, and like bland, particularly bland potatoes. But it's like not quite a 1, but also not quite a 2. I don't know. You know, maybe it is a 2. Maybe it's like a 2.5 actually. Because again, it's functional. I'm thinking 2.5 actually. Let's be a little less cruel here. But yeah, it's not good. Don't play it. Play BioShock instead. Everything that they could have done with Reveal the Deep was instead done a trillion times better years earlier in BioShock. And I know BioShock had a team of many, many people working on it, whereas Reveal the Deep just had like one guy, but that's just the way it is. Do I have anything else to say about it, or shall I leave you guys finally? I think we're done. We're not moving on to Half-Life. That's going to be the next stream. But I feel like we covered some good ground here. We got exactly as far as I wanted to go, but in almost an entire hour more of the time. Trying to think if there's anything else I even remember about Reveal the Deep. It wasn't very good. I'm being rude to it at this point. But yeah, play Rhythm Heaven, play Psychonauts, play Shovel Knight. We got plenty of good shit here. But we're kind of getting into that zone of like, there's a lot of just random games, you know? Where it's like, oh, I'm going to have to talk about Avalanche 2, Super Avalanche, you know? And then Fallout New Vegas. We're in the Slumgullion territory. And then eventually when we get to the end, we'll just be reviewing a bunch of like series, like entire series, you know? But okay, that's it, folks. It's done. It's over. I'm done with this. Not, you know, this series, but I'm done for today. I always say that I will try to do more of these, and I almost always fail to do more of them, but we are slowly but surely. We are slowly but surely working our way through this list, and the goal is still to get it to be caught up. So it's just like once every couple of months, I just do another one of these streams, and it can be a nice laid-back thing, and I don't feel like I'm playing catch-up. But whatever. I'm going to go take a huge shit and blast the toilet bowl with piss. I don't know why I said it so grossly. I appreciate you guys checking out the stream. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Play Psychonauts.